Welcome back to Nickals and Dimes, the #1 podcast in combat sports. We're on take 2 of the intro, so hopefully it goes well. But really excited for today. We're going to do a 2025 Division I NCAA Wrestling Championship Tournament preview. We got a bunch of absolute studs, a bunch of absolute savages on the pod today. National champ Mike Macchiavello joining us. We got David Carr, national champ, Stevan Micic, world champion. We got Anthony Cassar, myself, and then the #1 wrestling expert that we're having joining us is my main man Ronan from Philly. He's going to be, giving his insights and sharing his predictions. So excited to hear those.
Such an honor.
Such an honor. But super pumped. But thanks for coming on, guys, and I'm excited to chat with you about some wrestling. Yeah, I figured we'd start at 157 and 165. I know, David, you only have a few minutes with us, so these are the weights that you wrestled in college. What have you seen out of? Let's start at 157. What have you seen out of some of these guys? And any predictions, any preview for the tournament? What any interesting storylines for you?
Yeah, 57. I mean, K-Sack, it's been fun watching him wrestle. That match with Teamer where he's lifting his arm up, that's pretty tough. I think he has a lot of grit, and he's kind of exciting to watch. Let's see, who will he have in semis most likely? Probably, Miles Shapiro.
Shapiro's number 2 seed.
Oh, okay. Well, let me see. Yeah, Shapiro.
Virginia Tech or
Virginia Tech, yeah. I mean, this is going to be an exciting bracket. I think that, the semifinals is going to be fun to watch to see who kind of comes in on the bottom half and the top half. But, yeah, I would say 57 is always interesting. I feel like there's going to be a lot of drama and upsets. But I honestly think K-Sack will probably make the finals, and then I don't really know who else will kind of arrive there. It's going to be kind of fun to watch, though.
Do you have any experience wrestling any of these guys? I know a lot of these guys are young, but any of the guys, have you had matches with them?
I've wrestled Teamer twice in college. I just know that he's kind of a gamer. I know he didn't have the best Big Tens, but he's a guy that shows up at the end. I think you kind of see that every year. And so even if I wrestled him early in the season, it was a different guy, 2 different wrestlers. So I think expect a different team than what you saw at the Big Tens.
Yeah. He's at the number 18 seed, so it's looking like he'll have Meyer Shapiro second round. What do you think of that matchup?
That's going to be fireworks. That's crazy. What do you think the score is going to be? I think that's going to be kind of a high-scoring match.
Yeah, I would love to see a high-scoring match. I feel like Teamer has got that crazy explosiveness. And as far as scoring ability, I haven't really seen somebody like Shapiro in a long time. I feel like he's got crazy creativity, athleticism, and I always see videos of him rolling around on the big medicine ball doing wild stuff. So, yeah. You like Meyer there, Stevan?
Yeah, well, I just think he's probably the most, he's got the best athletic and technical abilities that's, potential in this bracket, but I'm not sure, the one thing that we've seen from him, last year, especially at NCAAs, was, he kind of can beat himself sometimes, and I'm a huge fan of Meyer. I really love the kid, and I'd like to see him win this, but this whole weekend is you got to wrestle 5 amazing matches, so you can't just, you know what I mean? So we'll see if he can hold up in this, and if it was on paper, I think he'd win it, but K-Sax looked amazing, and especially this end of this season, and you never like Dave said about Teamer too. You can never. He can be a totally different wrestler this weekend, so that's going to be really exciting second match.
Definitely. What I see Meyer 11-1. Who's his loss to? Do you know, Stevan, or does anybody know?
I was going to ask you the same thing. I'm not sure.
Was it an injury thing?
I don't know.
Because he had a couple of concussions.
Maybe. I know that, yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure. Ronan, you want to look that up real quick if you can? We should have had an extra person with the screen share because I don't want to mess with my screen since I'm on the bracket. But yeah,
Dude, they had no. I just remember last year, didn't he like make it to the quarters and he lost to the guy to make the finals, and then he like re-beat him for third, and he like kind of kicked his butt for third and fourth. It was just like, it was just kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So
I think it's gonna be. I see my boy Cody Chandler's gonna have K-Sack second round. That's gonna be crazy. Have you ever watched him wrestle?
True.
Yeah, I've seen him go. He's a Tennessee kid, right?
Yeah, he's from Tennessee. He has a crazy pace. That's gonna be fun to watch as well.
You train with him a lot?
Yeah, he's tough. He hand fights hard. Has great underhooks. He can scramble. He's kind of an underrated scrambler. So I think man, this whole bracket. Now that I'm like looking through it right now, it's a crazy bracket.
I agree.
Yeah, this is crazy.
Also, I think who had a crazy Big Ten tournament was Joey Blaze. Because he's like, compared to his brother Marcus, he's like so unorthodox and crazy, and you really can't expect anything how he's gonna wrestle. And he's really put together like a pretty good last month of wrestling, I believe. Took third here, and then you never know, he could go out and All-American and get on the podium and upset some guys, or he could go 1 and 2 or something. Yeah, I don't know, but he's kind of been exciting to watch. Just the unpredictability. Chase Aldate kind of has that from Michigan as well. So there's just some guys that can throw a wrench in everybody's game plan, I guess, in the brackets,
Yeah. Chase Aldate at 10-9. That's crazy. Like, it's weird. He's the number 23 seed at 10-9, but I could easily see him being All-American.
Same.
Sure. Ed Scott, former All-American too, 22.
That's 22.
Yeah, he's got some good wins over Antonian.
Oh yeah, were you on the team at the same time with Ed?
So he came in a little late after, but he was actually my roommate before I lived in Lehigh. So I spent a ton of time with him and stuff like that. And I mean, he's good. He honestly, his style reminds me of Ringer. He's very underhook heavy, dump heavy, and he'll use that underhook. He'll shimmy to he'll fake the dump, go single, just like Ringer does. So his series is pretty similar. He's good, man. When he shows up, he's a problem. I remember he's majored Andoni before. He's got a win over O'Connor that year. O'Connor didn't win NCAAs. So I mean, Ed's definitely got the ability to throw a wrench in the bracket too. It just depends on which Ed shows up.
Gotcha. Yeah, well, no doubt. This weight's going to be absolutely fireworks. There's a ton of guys in here that could be, I feel like 1 and 2 look pretty solidified with Meyer and Tyler, but other than that, it's a toss-up between everybody, and at the end of the day, anybody could win. Like Stevan said, you have to have 5 good matches, this weekend. But let's move on. Let's talk 165 real quick while David's still with us. So this has been an interesting weight this year. We've had Mitchell kind of blowing everybody out of the water. A lot of other tough guys in the weight. Mitchell had the one close match with Caliendo in the Big Ten final, but other than that, he's kind of separated himself. But a lot of really tough guys. We have, Bear Claw, or the top 4 seeds. Between the top 4 seeds, we have a combined total of 1, 3, 5 losses. So pretty, good records overall. What are you thinking, David?
I haven't wrestled Bear Claw before, but he's shown to have a good year. I think he only has how many losses does he have? Only 2, maybe 3. And he had a good showing. Like you said, Nesson Briggs kind of separated himself from the pack. I've wrestled him. I know he kind of brings that pace and kind of just that's how he wrestles. And so it'll be interesting. He had a closer match, like you said, with Caliendo. But other than that match, it's kind of been dominant for him this year.
Wrestling Mitchell last year in the finals, what was your mindset going into that match, just knowing how crazy his pace is and what he brings to the table?
Yeah, I had actually watched him wrestle quite a bit during the season, and obviously had a lot of hype around him with his pace and how he attacked. So I was just kind of going into the match wanting to start fast because, I don't want the match to kind of get away from me or out of hand. So I wanted to start fast. I wanted to control the top position. I just saw that as kind of area, you're wrestling a younger guy. I'm not thinking I want to ride him for as long as I did, but I want to ride him and make him work to get out. just to see, like, you get out, but I want you to work for it,
You have had, a bunch of experiences in high pressure situations, what makes the NCAA finals and that, the whole tournament, but specifically the finals, just like a special experience. And what do you think has allowed you to like compete well in those situations?
Yeah, I think my faith has been huge to help me stay relaxed and enjoy the moment. And I think to be able to compete well, you just kind of have to surrender the outcome and just trust and focus on the process as far as like moving my hands, shooting explosive shots, trying to wrestle slick and create angles. Those are like kind of my target and my things that I focus on. And so when I focus on those things rather than winning or losing, I usually like the result and I like my effort. Even if I lose, if I know I get great effort and I was offensive, then it's like, I always can grow and get better. So those are the kind of mindsets I had going to nationals. And I think that's why I was able to have pretty good results. But, obviously there were some years that I didn't get what I wanted, but at least I knew I gave great effort.
Nice. That's good stuff. Yeah, continuing with 165, anything else any of you guys see at the weight that you're interested in? Any guys that specifically you've watched?
It'll be interesting with I think Messenbrink's really the most proven guy in this whole weight class, of the way that he's been so consistent and so dominant, and I really like that, especially in college. But Cameron being Amin at the 8 seed is kind of crazy. Like, I mean, he hasn't had the best season. I know he transferred and he has made some improvements. I feel like everyone knows how talented he is and how like he can keep him, like the matches that he's going to be in are going to be tough. I know last season's match he had with Messenbrink, I don't think he's wrestled him since last year. He did kind of get controlled and dominated a little bit, but I don't know like how he's going to compete here. I think that's just, I guess, an interesting one. That's not like just going to be like a cakewalk all the way to the finals kind of situation for him, even though his only close match has been really that Big Ten finals against Caliendo. And then I don't know, the other side, I'm trying to think of who else. Oh, I hope that, and obviously, the Michigan bias, but I really hope Bo Montanona does well, because he's young. He is he has such a high ceiling for potential, and he's kind of like the next person I think that Michigan is kind of building. Him and his brother are building the program around. So I really hope he can have a big, he's going to be the next star of Michigan. So, and I mean, he came out hot. I know he just kind of had a knee thing where like his conditioning isn't too great at the moment, but I mean, he came out and took Messenbrink down, and then after that he didn't look, he kind of got, beat up. But it's like good signs, I guess, from him that he can compete, and he's not really scared of anybody, and he's just, he's got some developing to do. But this can be like that tournament for him. That kind of reminded me of like me or Miles Amin or Logan Massa our freshman year, where we kind of jumped in as freshmen and did really well, and it kind of set us up well. And I think, Bo can have that situation too. And his brother coming in next year, and then the good recruiting class comes in, and, he kind of sets the tone. So hopefully he'll have a good tournament. But I don't really see anybody beating Messenbrink, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Mock?
Yeah, I'm curious about Terrell Bearclaw. He's at UVU with, basically my former staff and coaches. You got Adam Hall was my coach while I was at State, and then you got Tim McCall, was someone who I trained a ton with, and I think those guys do a good job. And then Joey LaValle's the other assistant who was at Lehigh right before, and you guys know quite a bit about him. So I actually was curious as to how you guys think he's going to perform, him being in the room with you guys for so long and stuff like that. But I think he's had a good year, and I'm definitely interested to see how he'll perform, being on the same side as Messenbrink, because I'm sure that those guys have wrestled, since they were in the room together. So, does that give an advantage? Does it not? I don't know. Because I think Messenbrink's good. Like I said, what Micic says, proven. So I think he's going to be a tough one to beat. But yeah, what do you guys think about Bearclaw? How do you guys think he's going to do?
They're kind of similar, honestly, like in their enthusiasm and the way they approach the sport and their high pace, and both just like really good, positive dudes. So I'm kind of sad that they're on the same side, but I don't know. I think it's going to be a really exciting match, and I'm just pumped to see Terrell have success, because he had a kind of similar story to me, where he was just like grinding in the room for 4 years straight, and then now he's kind of having his opportunity to shine. So I want to see them both. I'd like to see them both win a national title, but we'll see. I hope they both, at least perform to the best of their ability. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that for Terrell, it's so tough when you're in the lineup and there's just so many good guys. He's had at his weight class just like hammer after hammer, and he's been that kid that's just been right there. And so to see him get his opportunity first off is just exciting. And I think that he's a guy that he competes super hard, and he competes the same regardless of the situation. It doesn't matter whether you're wrestling in an off-season workout or whether it's the NCAA tournament. So he's a guy, I think that he'll just wrestle as good as he can out there. And I'm excited for that quarterfinal match between, we'll see how it works out the first few rounds, but potentially him and Julian Ramirez, because Ramirez is a guy that's very tricky. And I see that as like a big-time clash of styles. They both have great records. And but Ramirez has beat a lot of good guys, and that'll be a good opportunity, for Terrell. So we'll see like kind of what wins the just hard nose, grind it out, straight on, single leg type guy, or the guy that can scramble, that's a little more dynamic. And the winner of that, we'll see. I think we can assume it'll be Mitchell, but that top side of that bracket is stacked between Mitchell, Amin, Ramirez, and Bear Claw, and there's a couple other guys in there as well that I'm noticing. But yeah, it looks like whoever comes out of that top side is going to have to. It's not going to be easy. They're not going to walk through that.
This tournament is so crazy, man. Like, I think about first round, Bear Claw's got Derek Fields from NC State, and he's 14-12. So his record's like, barely 50-50. But Fields in the room, like if you took wrestling skill away and you just measured athleticism, vertical, sprint speed, explosive ability, all these other aspects, it's like he's probably got higher numbers than a majority of guys in the bracket. And it's like, this is the type of tournament, it's like, obviously if you're super sound, you're going to be hard to beat. But I feel like you don't know who's going to show up and just really surprise you. You know what I mean? And I feel like these last two weights, there's just a lot of really, really good guys that just could show up and really mess the whole bracket up.
Yeah, absolutely. Tony, I know you only got a few more minutes, so we're jumping around, but let's jump to heavyweight and talk about it real quick.
Sounds good.
So I guess, obviously we have the big boys. We have, Gable Stevenson at the top, Hendrickson at 2, Greg 3. What do you, when you saw the bracket come out, what was your reaction?
Yeah, I think for Gable's early rounds that, the Rutgers dude's tough, and he poses some challenges. Gable kind of opened them up later in the match, but not the easiest early rounds. And then Wyatt on the other side, I like that with Greg. I feel like Greg kind of has a really good feel for him and is a good style matchup for him. So I think really the focus, obviously, with training, which I'm about to go do, is help Greg get ready to win that finals match and be ready to go. So the other dude at 4, I've watched a couple of his matches from Lehigh. You probably train with him, right, Mock?
Huh? Say it again?
You probably train with him a bunch?
Yeah. So be careful what you say right
Every time I say a name, I look at the team and I'm like trying to remember where you guys are all from.
He's also an NC State guy. So he transferred to Lehigh second semester. So I've known him like his whole career.
So you've seen him like progress, and yeah, he looks good. He's got some like really quick reattacks and smooth with those, like forces those scrambles, and he's got some good stuff. What do you feel from him?
He's bigger than he's ever been career-wise, like weight-wise and just mass-wise. He's just bigger, so he's got a little more strength to him. So I think he's got. I think that's been helping him this season, especially with his reattacks. But also, like if you watch that Schultz match where he beat Schultz, gets that outside step and picks him up. So like. I think just he's strong. He looks super sharp. The Lehigh coach has been doing a good job giving him some individual attention and helping him develop since he's been here in the past 2 months. So honestly,
Nice.
I could really see a really strong tournament from Owen.
Awesome.
To be honest, yeah.
And then I like Isaac Trumbull. You're familiar with him too?
Yep.
Yeah. He's always impressed me, and I think it was really smart when he moved up. And I think that he can give Wyatt some challenges. Like their first match, Wyatt caught him and stuck him, but I think that he's big and strong and can still move like a 97-pounder. So I'm excited to see that potential quarters.
Yeah, same. Isaac, he had a good Olympic trials too, and he's kind of had a strong year. He's made some big jumps in the past 12 months, and he's really developed his offense. He's been pulling the trigger a lot more this year, and he's also just hard to score on. He's so long. He's 6'4", so
Wow.
he does a good job finding his lock in the crotch, making it really, really tough for guys to finish, and he's really good in that crackdown position. So I think we'll see a strong tournament from him too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then Feldman, Cooter from Iowa, that potential second round is crazy because I think they've swapped wins on that, but Cooter had a really good Big Tens, and Feldman has impressed me all year. He's taken some L's, but he's big and strong, and he can move, and I think he's opened up Gable more than anyone else this year, obviously aside from Greg. So I'm excited to see that quarterfinals, and then just see how the rest of the bracket turns out.
Mine wasn't serious. It was a joke, so you go ahead.
Go ahead. Let's hear it. What was it?
Yo, Ant, how many of these guys do you think can eat more than you? At a one sit down, are you putting down more than these guys, or are you last place? Where do you think you land with these guys?
I'll say this: I think that most of them can eat more than me, but no shot any single one of them is eating more than me.
Is it a mental thing at that point, or is
For
it
sure, bro? It's all mental. It's just like going into nationals. Most of these guys are probably bigger, stronger. They've been wrestling longer, but you know how it is.
Wow, you admitted they're stronger, huh?
No, I meant hypothetically.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Wow. Yo, Tony, tell these guys about our NCAA tournament routine for our morning routine and then our pre-finals.
Oh, Micic and these guys are gonna hate this, but yeah, we would wake up every morning to a nice omelet, potatoes, fresh squeezed orange juice, this full breakfast on our bed every morning. And it was the nicest thing, bro. We just load up on food and then just stumble into weigh-ins.
That's
Is this the whole team, or is this just you two?
Just
us two.
Because he was heavyweight and then I bumped up to 97. I was only weighing 195, so I was feeling good.
Yeah, it was great.
Let's jump back down to 125, and 125 always just such a crazy weight. I feel like we never know what's going to happen here. Stevan, give us some of your insight and some of your reactions to the bracket.
Yeah, so this is interesting because this is a first time really, I guess last year was too, but this is a first time because usually 25 is pretty deep, and then when Spencer came in, it kind of people started to kind of get out of the bracket a little bit, and it was kind of it was just him, and now it's back to where now we have a mix of the guys, and I think I thought Ramos when I was watching him wrestle this whole season. Ramos has always been one of those guys that's been kind of crazy. He can throw the kitchen sink, and he's not afraid to risk anything, but sometimes he does it at the wrong times, right? And this season, it kind of looked like he was doing it smart. He kind of was really composed, started developing some better offense, using his defense that he's good at, and then doing things when he needed to. And I was like, dude, I think Ramos is going to be the guy. But then, I don't know, at Big Tens, Lilladal's really, really, really stepped up. Obviously he's taken a couple losses as a freshman, usually does, and it's every time he's done that, it's he's just come back a better wrestler. So, and then what happened at Big Tens, it was kind of I almost saw a little bit of old Ramos come back out, especially when Luke stayed composed against him, and it's like, especially being a young kid who can do that. I don't know, man. And then I don't know what's going on with Figueroa, but you can't count him out. He's a returning national champ. So this is a really interesting weight, and I'm really excited that 25 is kind of back again at some capacity of being like very unpredictable, and you're not sure what's going to happen. So those are my three main ones that I can't really decipher from, and I'm just kind of excited to let it play out because, then I don't know who else is in this bracket. What is that? That Steve O'Pullen kid? He's solid.
Yeah, Vincent Robinson's dangerous. He's the guy that.
Yeah, Vincent Robinson. Yep.
Fake wrist snap. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Where he's got guys swirling in the air. And then Caleb Smith. I know Lillidahl's beaten him twice. What was the Big Ten final between Smith and Lillidahl?
I believe it was one takedown. I think it was maybe 4-2.
It was 4-1, I think, or something like that.
Yeah.
4-1 or maybe 5-1 with the riding point.
And then the first match they had was also one takedown, right? Like at the end, Lillidahl scored off of a re-attack.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So,
I think that the top side of the bracket is definitely the tougher side of the bracket.
For sure.
So I think Luke will have to make sure he wrestles.
Robinson.
Richie, who is that? And Vincent Robinson, yeah. And then the bottom, it's really Ramos and Moran will be kind of interesting early. That Pullen kid, but I don't know really. We're gonna see. This is very interesting to me because usually 25 hasn't looked this, where you can choose from maybe 4 guys or 5 guys in a minute. It's really been kind of like it's kind of has to reset again after, and now the next couple of years with these high school kids coming in to play, where 25, 33, 41 are kind of going to get loaded up again after like a little bit of a break. It's going to be exciting with these weight classes.
Yeah, definitely. What do you think? You have young guys in here, and then you have experienced guys in here. You have a guy at the number 1 seed, Luke Lillidahl, who's a true freshman, obviously incredibly talented. But he doesn't have that experience of being in the NCAA tournament. Then you have a guy like Richard Figueroa, who's a national champ. You have Matt Ramos. You have Caleb Smith, who's been All-American. You have tons of guys that have competed here before and had a lot of success here before. How do you weigh, the momentum of having won the Big Tens, being the number 1 seed, versus the guys that have just been there before? And how's that going to factor in?
I think, I would say, hey, you're not really sure. Obviously, a guy like Ramos, who's, made the finals before, he pinned Spencer to make, that was pretty crazy. He can obviously rise to the occasion. But I really wouldn't be I'm not really concerned about Lillidahl's mental. I think he's probably in the best place he's ever been in his wrestling. And being at Penn State, you guys do it the best when it comes to the NCAA tournament and making adjustments from Big Tens and making those changes and being focused and peaked at the right time. I think that's more than anything what, regardless of what you're doing in training, I think that the NCAA tournament is when you guys are the most ready. So I think for him, I don't doubt anything. He can win this tournament. He's ready to win this tournament. So I don't think his lack of experience is going to do anything. He's wrestled at a very high level in youth anyways. I think, what is he, a junior world champion or cadet world champion? Mm-hmm. I mean, he's it's not like he's not, he's been there at a young age as well. And obviously coming to the NCAA tournament, nothing's like it, but I think he's ready.
I want to ask you that question. No, I asked you the same question, right? Because you came out of redshirt your freshman year, and then made the finals, right? So starting the season off redshirting, not for sure knowing whether or not you're going to wrestle the tournament, coming out, and then obviously having a great tournament.
Yeah, so I redshirted. I redshirted my whole, and then I didn't. I took a full redshirt, and then came in the next year. Yeah, I did. Okay. There's Mark Hall is one of the guys that he. Came out of redshirt the next year, and we've had a few other guys do that as well. But it's been interesting. It's interesting to see, the different guys. Some guys are ready, some guys, aren't. When I look at Luke, I think one of his biggest assets is his poise. it's tough to come in as a freshman at a competitive weight like 125 and win not only consistently but win a lot of close matches. Like, he's been able to win a lot of close matches.
Oh, yeah.
He's been able to beat a lot of really tough guys consistently. Yeah, he's dropped a couple. He dropped one to Dean Peterson. He dropped one to McCrone. But overall, his poise is really what's impressed me the most. Like, he just knows how to win. And so when I look at, kind of like exactly what Stevan said, when I look at like the factor of like what the pressure of the NCAA tournament brings, he's not a guy that I really worry about performance-wise.
Yeah.
He never has an emotional look on his face. Like, every time he steps out on the mat, it's the same look. And that's, I think, pretty, you haven't really seen him get rattled. Of course, he's hyper competitive and he wants to win, but I don't see that really being too big of a factor for him. I think he'll be ready to go.
Yeah, he's got a level of like maturity and poise that like I wouldn't have been able to do that at that age, where I was a little bit more all over the place, where you could get a too excited version of me and then sometimes a too calm version, and I couldn't get a balance of it. And for him to have that at such a young age is very, very special. So I think like this, he's not a kid I look at and say, hey, let's like, well, he's a freshman. No, I don't even think of him looking as like a freshman wrestling this.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, let's move to 133. 133, interesting weight. It's been really interesting all year. I feel like, it's just been, it's crazy. Go ahead, Stevan.
I don't think this is the strongest 33 that we've seen in the past. So like, I feel like 33 has always been kind of a weight. The last like at least 10 years has been very, very deep with 4 guys that are, guys like, everyone in the weight pretty much ever since I can remember, even like when I came in as a freshman with like Corey Clark and Tomasello and I came in, and then after that it was like me and Gross, and then Suriano, DeSanto, Fix, RBY, like guys that all could go on have wrestled past this college scene at that weight class. So this is kind of the first year I've really noticed a little bit of it, where especially when that, I think that Cal Poly kid, that Zeth Romney, kind of stepped up really well, and it's like he's been a force. But comparatively, I know like, and then Drake Ayala just moved up from 25 to 33, and I don't think he's the, I think in my opinion, I really think that the finals are going to be Lucas Bird and Nasir Bailey. I think Nasir Bailey has a lot of talent. I like, he's a Chicago kid, Harvey Twister, and he's really he's raised the bar, and it's cool going to a school like Little Rock, who's doing such great stuff right now, like a small school that can kind of I think like it's good for him and good for their program and what they've been able to do. I think he's riding high on confidence. He's got the skill, and if he took 3rd last year, he's been there. There's nobody in this bracket he can't beat. And Lucas Bird looked really good at the Big Ten. So those are who I think it is. Brandon Davis from Penn State, he didn't look too great. But I don't know what could happen with him, because he's kind of one of those guys like that can come out and strike. And what do you guys think about this weight? Because that's what I think it's going to be, like a Bird or Nasir Bailey, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, obviously I'm at Lehigh, so first thing I think about is Ryan Crookham. Where would he fall?
Yeah. Crookham's out.
I think Crookham would be the 1 seed if he was. Me
too.
To be honest. But I think a guy like Kyrene, him at a 26 seed is interesting. He started the season at 41. The beginning of the year started at 41, and the coaches and him had a conversation. They decided, maybe go back down to 33 because he's All-American.
Oh, Kai. Yeah, the NC State kid.
He's All-American twice at 33, and he went up, started the year at 41, which is where I believe a majority of his losses are. So I don't think that 12-7 record is truly reflective of his season, because the majority of those losses have been up a weight. You know what I mean? And so he's also the type of guy, he's a gamer, man. Like, he'll hit a cement mixer in overtime. He did it at the ACC final against Philippi. I think the year before he had a tough match with Dayton Fix 1 year at NCAAs. And so I genuinely could see him making the semis, and I wouldn't be surprised if he hit like a crazy upset. You know what I mean? Just because, he's good enough. He's already All-American twice, so.
Dude, that bottom quarter is crazy. You have Bozakis, you have Kyrene, you have Shaver, who's tough. I don't know the Central Michigan kid. You have
Yeah, it's
Noto.
crazy.
You have Cade Moore, who he's 12-17, but Cade Moore is like a pinner, and he's beat a lot of good guys. He pinned the kid from Virginia Tech last year. I forget in a duel, but a tough kid from Virginia Tech, and then obviously Ayala. But that's a crazy quarter from the bottom.
Oh yeah,
That is a wild one.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to watch. Like, I feel like that's why you got to get to the NCAA tournament for the first session, is because you just have crazy matches, crazy upsets. Like that 20 Kyrene versus Nick Bozakis first round is gonna be nuts.
Yeah, that Cade Moore is probably coming for upsets. Like, that's like his, mindset. It's like, hey, I've got a losing record here. Who cares? I'm going to just let it fly. And then all of a sudden he's got Ayala on his back or something crazy.
Yeah, definitely. And you never know, too, like first round with guys' weight cuts and stuff. Ayala's going up, so he's probably going to be feeling good. But, it's just like you never know what's going to happen. And there's always something crazy first round. I remember my freshman year at 174, I was the only top, I think 3 out of the top 4 seeds. I was the number 1 seed. 3 out of the top 4 lost in the first round. It was crazy.
That's insane.
It was nuts. Yeah. So like number 2 was Brian Riabuto. He lost first round. I think number 3 was maybe like Crutchmer or somebody, and then there was one other guy, and
Ethan Ramos, I think.
Yeah, Ramos. That's who it was. They all lost first round, and I was just like, what the heck is going on?
That's crazy.
Also,
weird. At this weight, that Evan Frost kid's pretty tough. Did he must have lost at the Big 12s though, because he got a wild card or whatever.
He did, yeah. He got an at-large bid, so.
Yeah. So that's not a guy either that you can count out. And
no, he wrestled fixed to OT last year.
I remember.
And he's got a ton of pace. He wrestles so hard with a lot of pressure. If David was on, he would definitely be gassing him up, because he was talking about him when we were at our last tournament together in Croatia in February. He was like, Mock, you got to check this dude out. He's a beast. Like, he's so good. He works with Ortega a lot. Ortega's been helping him out a ton. Comes in, does one-on-ones. He's on the treadmill every single day. And I don't know the kid personally, so I don't think I'm biased, but I did watch some of his matches with David, and that kid is definitely tough. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a good tournament from him either.
Yeah, it's such a big benefit now for all these kids to be able to wrestle with RTC guys, and then make a junior world team or a university world team, and travel and be around just the best guys in the world, because I just feel like they're so much more prepared for moments like this. And a guy like Frost, who's 11 seed, who didn't have a great Big 12, it's like he has experience wrestling the best guys in the world. So it doesn't matter if he comes in at the number 11 seed, like he can beat guys. And it makes it so interesting the way that guys develop now and where they're ready to compete.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't want to take this away from what we're talking about, but like, yeah, with RTCs, like from your experience, obviously, Bo, because Penn State's got the best regional training center. You guys got the most medals in the room, right? So it's like, what was that like for you coming up, and how do you feel like that benefited you, right? Obviously, you talked a little bit about it. I agree. My perspective is the same. But you have this like conversation that's being had with coaches talking about NIL versus RTC, what's more important, where should you make your investment, and what's really going to drive the development of the program. And obviously I'm biased, I think RTC, but yeah, what are your – keep it short too. I don't want to take away, but like –
Yeah, I think that when you're looking at development, when you're looking at improving, the biggest thing for me and the biggest reason that I chose Penn State was the training partners. I was like, these are the guys that I'm going to be able to wrestle with every day. At the time it was Ed Ruth, David Taylor, Matt Brown, Casey Cunningham, Cale Sanderson, Quentin Wright, not to mention all the guys that were still in college and the guys that were in my class. So it was like that really, to me, was what signaled me to go there, and just being around people like that I think helped me just have the success that I had. And everybody here knows, the workout partners, like if you can get good workout partners, that's just such a big boost in being able to be competition ready and develop and improve. And I think that for me, when I went into an NCAA tournament or went into a college match, in training, I'm wrestling literal like world champion, Olympic champion every day. And so it almost just made it like, all right, well, if I'm beating these guys, or if I'm in their match with these guys or taking these guys down, like what's a college kid going to do to me? So it provided a level of confidence that I think just it made it no big deal when I went out there against a guy that was good in college. And I remember something that was always important, not something that was always in my mind when I would wrestle a guy, especially if there are other, their coaches were still competing or something like that, I'd be like, all right, who's sitting in your corner? Like, okay, I could beat your coach. Like, how are you supposed to beat me? That was kind of my mindset. It was like, like if your coach can't beat me, like, how are you going to beat me? So that was something where I think the RTC and just being around the best guys, it gave me a boost.
Definitely.
So I got a question for both you guys, Micic and Bo. Right now, let's say you were wrestling in college. You guys probably know what I'm going to ask. And you, All-American, you win NCAAs. And you get an offer for $200,000, $300,000, $400,000. Is there a number that moves the needle, or do you stay?
That's so tough because, like, I was, like, right out of that. Like, I missed that boat and that train. Yeah. And, I'm a guy that I feel like money. Okay, for me, like the success and what I want to accomplish in it means much more to me than the money that I could receive. And if I feel confident what I was able to, and I got it done. If I won that NCAA title, I probably would end up. I would probably stay and hope that they would offer me the money to make me stay, versus like, because I really wouldn't want to leave in that case. Because if I know, I'm always one of those guys that like. Because I never won an NCAA title. I came very, very close, but that ended up helping me kind of, in my pursuit, post into the freestyle and being always so close. When I ended up, finally becoming a world champion, it was one of those things that's like I've always been a guy that like once I'm able to hit something and I understand what it fully takes and gain that confidence from. So I would want to keep my training, and knowing how I'm able to accomplish that goal. I don't think it's like. For me at Michigan, I mean, a lot of it had to do with, I was definitely capable of doing it while I was there. So I don't think like any program really could have moved. And everyone that I've been seeing that has decided to take this huge step hasn't really performed very well. I haven't seen one guy that's said, let me pay you, $300,000 to $500,000 to move for 1 year here on your last year. I haven't seen anybody it pay out for. Have you guys? Has it paid out for anybody?
Not that I've seen.
The only guy that I feel like who's had a strong season. But other than that, I feel like a majority, no, not really.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I think that I kind of think along the same train of thought as Stevan, where, I would hope that the coaches and the program would take care of me to where I wouldn't have to feel like I need to shop around. And I think that there's definitely more important things than money. And the way I see it now is if you get the results you want, right, that's a long-term investment in your future. So if you win a national championship or win a world championship and you sacrifice, you're going to have to make sacrifices to put yourself in the right environment to do that. Yeah. That's going to pay dividends down the line. Like you guys, myself included, because of the success that we've been able to have, we can literally coach or be an RTC athlete anywhere and get paid for the rest of our lives until we're 70, So that's where I think that it's a little short-sighted to think about the money right now. And I think that people, if you focus on just putting yourself in the right environment for you to be able to succeed as much as you can, that's going to pay more dividends down the line than the check, the NIL check. It might seem like a lot of money right now, and it is a lot of money right now, but what's going to happen if, things don't work out? You maybe are a low All-American or you don't even AA. And now, your options for jobs and things like that moving forward are a lot more limited than if you went to the right place and sacrificed it and then ended up winning or, doing better than you did otherwise.
Yeah,
so.
I 1,000% agree with that. So, yeah, getting the job done, I think, and then wanting to, or, I think I would stay. And when we get to the next week, are we doing 41 next? I was going to say, I was going to bring up like a Lirez, for example.
Because, let's go to 41 right now.
Because he stayed, you know what I mean? And he won a national title and he stayed. So, I don't know, this weight's really actually, this weight I think is very deep.
Yeah.
I think this is the deepest weight that's in the lower light, like the light weights. You've got two NCAA champions. You got Jesse Mendez and Alirez, right? Then you got Bo Bartlett, who's just beaten Jesse the last 2 times they've wrestled, and Brock Hardy, who's beaten, who just won Big Tens. This whole weight is just crazy, in my opinion, from those top 4 guys. Who else
it's
is
nuts. It's nuts. I mean, you have Cale Happel at the 5 seed, who's super tough.
Yep.
I mean, even at the 14, you have Lemley. Lemley is freaking really good. He's had 9 losses this year, but talk about him a little bit, Stevan. You train with him some?
Yeah. So Jesse Mendez and Sergio Lemley are both from like the same area that I'm from in Northwest Indiana. So we were from the same Kids Club Region Wrestling Academy. So it was cool watching them. They were like training partners. So, I mean, both are extremely, extremely talented. So Sergio is kind of the guy who's got a really good motor, and he's got good hands, heavy hips, and if he can figure out how to be a little bit more disciplined to kind of keep matches like the way he wants to, and not think about, I need to find offense, like I need to do this. No, it's just like kind of like what David was saying. I'm moving my hands. I'm keeping good position. Guys aren't. I'm just kind of like, if he gets his momentum moving, his chain wrestling is phenomenal, and he doesn't need to. And he'll sometimes come out there where he sometimes tries to make it more of like, hey, I'm not going to move the guy and look for shots, and that's when he doesn't wrestle too well, or he comes out of position and he stands up. His stance is a little high. So it's a little. I wish that him and Jesse didn't have to wrestle in the quarterfinals there. Mm-hmm. But I think Sergio should still, aim to get on the podium this year. And if he can, it'll be a really big, mental, thing for him.
Right.
So that's how I feel about Sergio, because I see the talent and I see his ability, and he's in it. I mean, he the guy, that Nebraska guy, not Nebraska. Who was it though? The Minnesota kid that was in the finals. I think he went to overtime with him. So I mean, you can see that. And then I don't know if it's a big brother thing with Jesse, but Jesse is kind of beating him up the last 2 times. So that'll be interesting, and to always watch those 2 wrestle each other.
It's pretty crazy to be, club teammates and training partners, and to be wrestling at the NCAA tournament. That's like, it happens once in a while, but it's just like so wild.
I know, especially like the same weight, and it's crazy, because that actually happened like a while, like back when I was like a kid, where Jason Search's older brother Alex wrestled in Iowa, and then Andre Hernandez, that's Angel Escobedo's cousin. They were like all high school teammates, and then him and Alex and Andre had to wrestle each other like at Big Tens and stuff. So it's like, I don't know why always our clubs got guys that are in D1 wrestling each other at the same weight classes, but
that's pretty crazy. Yeah.
It is. So
really, Indiana's kind of a sleeper state for tough wrestlers. Like, it maybe doesn't get the credit, or the it's not as well known, but there's a lot of freaking really good guys that come out of that state.
I'm always talking it. Obviously, I'm talking it up, but I think the Northwest Indiana area, like near Chicago, because we're like a Chicago suburb, so we're able to commute and compete with a lot of the Chicago, Illinois wrestlers. It's near Michigan, it's near Wisconsin. You're kind of in this good mix of people, and like it's very tough. And it always seems like comparative, like all the guys who do make it pretty far. Like they'll wrestle, go win a state title or 2, and then they'll go into college and they'll be, top 5, top 10 guy, or an All-American on the podium. So like they get far.
Nick Lee,
that's what I would say. They've got the grit.
Nick Lee, Mason Parrish are both Indiana guys too.
Yeah, they are. They're from different areas. Nick Lee's from like Evansville. Nick's he's from Evansville. Mason's from which near like Cincinnati, like East Indiana, I believe. But still, Indiana, we've got some tough guys.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, a lot of hammers. Let's talk about so what do you guys know about at the number 7 seed, Kagan Jamison? There was an issue with the weight cutting and stuff going on at the Big 12 tournament. Do you guys know anything about that?
No. What is it? Like didn't he beat Alirez?
Yeah, I think so.
He did. So this is what I heard. Go ahead, Mock.
Go ahead. I was going to say,
Got it.
basically, like, at the conference tournament, you have to be in line by a certain time. And from what I heard, that and if you're not in line by a certain time, then technically it's a no-go. But apparently these guys weren't in line, and they were still cutting weight, and somehow were still able to wrestle. Is that right, Bo, or am I a little off?
Yeah. So what I heard was that exact thing happened. They were still cutting weight when the weigh-in started at 7:45, or they were supposed to be in line at 7:45, and everything was supposed to be done. And so they disqualified him and somebody else. I don't know who the other person was, but they were disqualified from the tournament, and they were written out of the bracket, and there was like a forfeit. So the coaches were notified. I think he was wrestling a guy from maybe UNI it was wrestling somebody or Air Force he was wrestling, and they were like, hey, you got a forfeit first round. This kid's disqualified. And I don't even know if they let him weigh in. Like, I don't know if they postponed when they weighed in, but then something happened where they petitioned to the Big 12, and then they got him back in, and then he ends up beating Alirez. So it was pretty crazy situation overall.
Is it affecting him for nationals?
It doesn't look like it. I mean, he's the number 7 seed in here, and
yeah, I don't think so. I just didn't know if maybe they were trying to do something like after the tournament was done too.
I don't think so. I listened to a couple interviews from other Big 12 coaches who were pretty pissed about it, but I don't think that they're doing anything about it. I just think that it was something that it was like he was disqualified. A couple people, weren't happy about that, and then the Big 12 decided to let him back in. So that was like, I don't know. It was just kind of a weird situation.
Yeah.
What about this Vance Vombauer guy who beat Bo? Is there anything like about him that you guys disliked in that match?
I don't know much about him, to be honest with you. Like besides this tournament.
I think he did. So he did well at the NCAAs last year. I want to say he ended up placing pretty high, and he's a tough kid. So his dad, I believe, was a head coach or a college coach, maybe in Wyoming, or Ben Vombauer was his name, and I believe he's from Colorado originally, but just a tough, like, hard-nosed kid. I've watched a couple of his matches in duels and stuff, and I didn't get to catch his match with Bo live, but I mean, if you're beating Bo, I think he took him down early maybe, and then Bo couldn't come back, and he ended up not being able to come back. So yeah, interesting weight though. It's super deep.
What do you think, Bo? Like, what's your opinion on it?
I think that Brock Hardy is super hot right now.
His offense looked good, I thought.
He looked good. He's a guy that I've always seen as like being right there, but not quite at the top level. He would get so close, and he'd have close matches with the best guys, but he didn't really beat them. And then he's been figuring it out lately. So I like him to do well. I think that somebody that we haven't talked about at this weight yet is the Navy kid, Coderhart. And that kid's kind of a beast. Like, I wouldn't be, we haven't talked about him, but his quarter is not, I look at it and there's tough kids in it, but I mean, I could see him making the semifinal. And if you're in the semis, it's like, and you're kind of a guy that's got momentum going, anything can happen. So, I watched I think he had a pin in the finals of the conference tournament, and I watched a couple of highlights from him, and he's a really athletic, strong kid. So I think that when you get in there with a really athletic, strong kid, if they have a good game plan and they don't let the moment get too big, like, they can kind of they can do well at tournaments like this because people aren't ready for them, or maybe he's a guy that's just been under the radar this whole year. People haven't looked at him too much. So I like him at the 4 seed. And then Bo, I think this has been Bo's best year. Outside the loss to Vombauer, which was, in my opinion, kind of I won't say a fluke, but I think that that happens maybe one time out of 10, one time out of 20. I think that Bo is wrestling the best he has, and he looks really, really good. He even looked really good coming back from that loss against beating Mendez again for third. So I think Bo makes the finals, and at the end of the day, I think he's my pick to win, just based off experience, based off how he's wrestling. I don't think that he drops. I think the Big Ten loss, honestly, is not the worst thing in the world for him, just because it'll keep him sharp, and he's going to go out there and compete hard, and he's just a tough guy to beat. I don't think that, again, I don't know that a match like that, he's not going to drop a match like that again. So he's definitely in my pick to win the tournament overall.
Yeah, that's a solid one.
Yeah.
I'm rooting for Jesse. I think Jesse can win it again, but Bo is such a hard matchup for him. I don't know why. That it's just like, these last two times. He beat him in the NCAA finals last year, and it was kind of an insane way to do it.
But
he was literally pulled that out of it. That was on had a trick up his sleeve with that little diving roll at the end. But I don't know. The thing is, Jesse didn't have a good Big Ten tournament this year. He is very, very, very competitive, and he's kind of like a full. He's got the kind of the full package. He's athlete. He's got some offense. He's got good tactics. If he sticks to his tactics, he can wrestle. But I think it's going to come down to if he can beat Bartlett this time. And like you said, I think this has been Bartlett's best season.
Has Bartlett and Alirez ever wrestled against each other? Do you guys know?
Yeah, they wrestled. I don't know, a lot.
Really?
They wrestled. They wrestled at the U.S. freestyle though, never folk style. So they've wrestled maybe 3 matches freestyle.
I feel like that would be an interesting matchup.
Yeah. So Bo has not beat Alirez, but it's all freestyle, and it was a situation where Alirez took his Olympic red shirt, and he's training freestyle the whole year, only focused on that. Bo's doing the whole college season, and then they wrestled at the U.S. Nationals, they wrestled at the U.S. Open, and then they wrestled at the World Trials, I believe, and they might have wrestled one more time. But I don't think Bo's beat him, and I think that Alirez at the 8 seed. That's like, I would be a little bummed if I was, that in that top quarter, because he took a loss at big
quarter.
Yeah. It's tough. He took a loss at the Big 12, but he's 16-1, right? And he's a returning national champion. So that would be, that's not an easy draw.
So he Bo lost to him in 2023 in the semifinals.
Wow.
In the NCAAs?
Yes.
Okay.
Wow. Do you guys know? Yeah, that would be an interesting final if we see that. That would be a good match, especially because I do think Bo is having a phenomenal year too. Other thing is, I don't know if you guys thought about this, but typically for athletes that are having an Olympic red shirt, is there a trend on whether they do really, really well or they kind of underperform going into the next season? You know what I mean? Do you guys know anything okay, guys who typically Olympic red shirt, they don't perform as well as most people think that they should? Or
I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think for me being somebody who did Olympic red shirt in it, it depends. I was in a I was in the weirdest situation there because I did the red shirt and then COVID happened, so it was 2 full years. Wow. So I didn't get it where I'm okay, I would not have done that red shirt. At that point, I would have just wrestled and be all right, they took my year away from eligibility. Whoops. Because at that point, it was you're 2 years fully away from wrestling, college. And you do kind of, folk style is, you can't take it for granted, thinking it's that easy, because it is not. So I think he, he's fine. I don't know how that match went with him and Jameson, but I kind of heard it was a pretty crazy match. So
it was overtime, I believe. Overtime.
Yeah.
Jameson got him in a scramble.
Yeah, so I don't think he's been outside of out of focus or out of touch from folk style, and I think he's fine. But I have no idea. Brock Hardy's such an he's kind of unpredictable, and like you said, Bo, he's starting to turn it up right now and figure it out. So if he continues that, I hope he's not the one we've seen. I'd like to see him, keep wrestling, because he was very, very impressive. I watched him in Evanston this last weekend, and he was hitting some crafty stuff that I didn't think he was usually. He's kind of had that, but it's like, oh, you're putting it together.
Yeah. No, he's definitely putting it together. Before we move on to 49, Stevan, talk a little bit about all the different, weights you wrestled. You finished your career at 141.
Oh, yeah.
What went into that, and how did that? I mean, it looked like it was maybe something that it was best for the team, or
yeah, it was. I for two things. So I was really small before going into 41, because I had just come back from wrestling 125 for the Olympics, and I had mono, so I didn't feel like my full strength was really developed, and I thought I'd be fine. The Olympics were in August. I took a break, and then I'd come back and wrestle college. I had a choice of doing 33 or 41, and I really wish that I would have won 33, but obviously the team was like, it'd be much better if you did 41, and I tried to jump into it. I'd be like, I'm not going to cut weight. I'll be fine. My skill levels, I'm a much higher level wrestler, and I just, so many things just inconsistent from that year. It was not the right decision for me to do that. But we ended up winning a Big Ten team title out of it. I wrestled really gritty. It wasn't my it was. I always thought of it as kind of hey, this could be a year to forget. But I really think when I decided, I graduated and I locked in fully on myself and on freestyle and went back down. I thought that year taught me a lot of things about competing, and learning that I put so much pressure on winning and losing before that when I went and wrestled 41, I was like, there was so many, I always beat the higher ranked dudes that were skilled, but then could lose to guy that wasn't that tough just because they were, a little bit bigger and stronger than me. That I was weighing 141 pounds walking on the weigh-ins, so I was tiny, and I've always had that trouble jumping up to 65 kilo range, but I always thought that year taught me a lot about learning hey, it's not really about winning and losing that much. I don't care about if I lose or not. Let's just give full effort and be locked in. And once I figured out how I want to wrestle as a whole, my tactics, my skill, my my faith, everything was all in one place. It was I did not care about losing at all. I'm just gonna go out there and try to take your head off, and that's really what ended up helping. So as much as that came into 41 was really a team thing, and I did it for the team, and I wish that I could have came out strong and been a national champion at the end of the day. But for what it ended up, I think from looking at my track to end up what my love has always been freestyling, trying to become an Olympic or world champion, and I win a world title out of it. I would say I couldn't have traded that experience. I feel like that kind of definitely played a part into it. So
yeah,
I was look for that way. You can't look and say, and be salty about your past. No, it wasn't the best decision, but I learned a lot from it, and I took a lot from it, and I became better. I kept improving. So
all about growing, improving, and getting better, and a lot of good lessons that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise. So
exactly.
Let's move to 149. 149's been really, really interesting this year.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's been a tale of a lot of different stories. You've had Van Ness come out hot and then make his return in the All-Star Classic, and then just also dropped a couple. But you've had Caleb Henson dominate. Him and Ridge Lovett wrestled in Vegas, and that was a super tight match. You had Panero Johnson win the Big 12. Ridge obviously won the Big 10. It's been a crazy weight this year.
Yeah. I really like Caleb Henson's style, and I like that he was a guy that no one even thought about last year, and he didn't really pull the whole Jaggers thing, where it was he kind of had a regular season and then wins and then kind of has another. It's no, this dude's been the proven number one. He's kind of had it, and then he's well, this is just me now. I'm the number one guy, and I really like that. Ridge Lovett is really talented. Could also win this thing. My pick's probably going to be Henson, but I like Shane Van Ness as well. I think he can make the finals, but I don't think Shane Van Ness should look past Chance Lamer. Chance was it with Michigan with me for a year. He's I think like the whole California, because he's from like the West Coast. I think him and his whole family's kind of like and his brothers are at Cal Poly, and so it just kind of was a better fit for him like mentally. But he's really skilled, and he's only had 2 losses this year. It'll be interesting to see that. I think Shane. It's going to be, I think, him and Ridge. Did they wrestle this year?
Shane, yeah, he lost to Ridge. It was a tight match, and then he got turned at the end, so he ended up losing by a little bit bigger margin, but it was pretty tight prior to that.
Yeah, if Shane doesn't, like, he can come out, he's very capable that he can come out and win this thing, but if he doesn't, I don't see him, like, being he can be a multiple-time national champion. I think it's so early in his career, and I really like where with his development and like what I see when I watch him wrestle. Like, especially right when he wrestled against Parko at Iowa, I was like, dude, he's becoming a really high level wrestler.
Yeah, I've wrestled quite a bit with Shane, and even though he's a lot smaller than me, and I think that as far as wrestling feel goes, just the natural feel and ability to move and know how to use your leverage and kind of put your body in position. Like, he's one of the best guys I've ever felt. And, I think that he's had some injuries and he's had some unfortunate, stuff go on with his health. So I think that we haven't got to see like the consistency. Yeah. Like, we haven't seen we've seen like just glimpses of Shane. Obviously, you mentioned that Parko match. He had another dominant victory over Parko at the Big Ten, and I think that his match at the All-Star Classic against West Virginia, I believe it was like amazing. Just I'd go out and dominate, and he can do really, really cool stuff. But I think that he just needs 5 consistent matches here. Whether he like you mentioned, that Lamer match in the second round is not one to look past, but he just needs to be consistent. And I think when I look at his tournament, his true freshman year, he lost to Yanni in the semis and was right there in that match. Definitely could have won that match. But what I saw, what's that?
He had the lead, didn't he?
Yeah, Yanni took him down with less than a minute left to win. And I think that what I saw there was just consistency. So, even though he lost to Yanni, who was one of the best NCAA wrestlers ever, I think that his tournament that year was very consistent, and so I'd like to see a consistent tournament this year from him.
I think Cannon Webster is going to be a sleeper.
Yeah, man,
he's good.
Dude, I helped KD. Like we've been friends for 10 years, right? So I've known PJ and all those guys, right? So we coached PJ, KD, and I against Cannon Webster for 3 different matches over the summer last year in freestyle. And he'd beat a couple All-Americans to get to the U20 World Team Trial Finals. And we had to beat him in the best 2 out of 3. And I was watching a bunch of his matches to get ready for the finals. And, dude, I watched that kid's film, and I think this kid is an absolute hammer. He hand fights super hard. He's super long. So he's like real effective with his pulls. And he doesn't like lean a whole bunch. Like, he has good control. He's well balanced the whole time. He pressures forward. And he's just like, he kind of wrestles a little bit like a machine, dude. Like, he just is going to hand fight you the entire full 7 minutes. And so, like, I feel like guys who have that type of style, whether someone's a little bit more skilled than you or not, like, you start to make fatigue a factor, and you put yourself in a position to win matches.
And he uses his leverage to that advantage as well to kind of keep that momentum.
Yeah, super long. And so I think, honestly,
he wrestled very well at Big Tens. I agree. Also, Lachlan McNeil, Lachlan's great.
Super good. 2-time All-American.
He's up a weight this year, but.
Yeah, something else interesting. We see Jaden Abbas at the 17 seed.
I didn't even notice him.
Jaden Abbas is good, man. He beat, I believe, Kasak and Meyer both last year. I'm pretty sure he beat both of them. Is that right? No, or was it? No, it's a different Stanford kid, I think, that beat Meyer. Was Meyer 49 last year, or was he 57?
Meyer was 57 still, I think.
Okay, well, Jaden Abbas definitely beat Kasak in the first round of NCAA tournament last year. So I think that he's a guy that, I mean, that second round match for Henson is not a gimme match. So that top quarter as well with Jordan Williams in it too. He's been having a really good year for Arkansas, and I mean, definitely think Henson's the favorite, and he's been wrestling lights out. But there's a lot of tough guys right up there in between that 1 and 8 quarter.
How do you guys think Parko does?
I like him, but I like Kyle a lot. The thing that I don't like when he wrestles is that he gets, like, he can go down like 10 points though. Like, yeah. That's the thing that's scary, right? So he can keep a close match, but it's like if you get a takedown and like catch him in it, like he can get put in a Turk or caught in a cradle, or like there's no like I just, it's gonna be a tight match this whole one and he can win. It's like if he's out, it's like gonna be almost a tech fall. Like Ridge almost teched him at the Big Tens. Shane almost teched him in the duel. Like those aren't good like ways to lose matches and to stay consistent, especially finishing this year. So if he maybe keeps it close and doesn't get in a match where he gets caught in any way possible, like I don't know. I don't like, that's what I don't like, and that's kind of a thing that's hard to bet on. And like I don't know. That's a tough risk to say he's going to do great if that's kind of what's going on.
Yeah, for sure. You see those kind of results and just those scores at the end of the matches, and you're like, whoa, what the heck happened? Like Kyle Parko, he's 20-3, so he's lost to Shane twice and Ridge once. Those are his only losses. They were like double-digit points every time. So that's just like a weird anomaly. There's not really another guy that I've seen that I really know that has had results like that.
Yeah, so that's why it's tough. And also, you know what? Jordan Williams, the Little Rock guy, he's very talented as well. So I think he's going to get on the podium. I don't know how high, but I think he's going to get on the podium. And I think he's in a pretty decent little spot where he'll probably if he can make it to Henson.
That's a cool storyline too.
Who's this Malik? Is it Malik Hines?
Yeah, he's tough, but he hasn't, I don't think, had a great, he had injury last year, I think, right, or something?
Yeah, and he's the type of guy that's like, because obviously he's at Lehigh, so I'm here, and you watch him wrestle, and you're like, man, this kid's really, really talented. And remember Ryan Jack was having a good year. He's redshirting for NC State right now, but Ryan Jack was having a great year before this year going to the NCAA tournament, and Malik put it on him at the tournament. And so Malik's the type of guy that could have an okay season, but then he's always been talented. So he's the type of guy that, like, he gets hot, he's going to be tough to beat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do remember him from a few years ago wrestling Bo Bartlett in the duel, and it went to overtime. Bo ended up taking him down, but it was a super, super tight match. So he's definitely another guy that's got a lot of talent. That can make some upsets if he gets some momentum going behind him. Mm-hmm. Let's move to 174. We did 57 and 65. 174.
Did you wrestle 1 year at 174? Or were you at 84?
I wrestled 74 my freshman year. Yeah, so I did my first NCAA tournament was at 74. I feel like traditionally once 65, 74. There's always tough weights, but those two weights have always been stacked. Maybe I'm biased because that's always all the guys that I knew growing up, but we have 3 guys at this weight, in my opinion, that if they were like in any other era, like not the same as each other, they would all be multiple time champion type guys. And it's gonna be a fun tournament to watch these guys. I mean, there's a lot of tough guys throughout the whole weight, but the top 3 with O'Toole, Levi Haynes, and Hamady, man, those are some absolute hammers right there.
This is my favorite weight class for the top guys. Like, this is Like, this is like the semis that I'm most excited for and the finals that I'm most excited for at this weight class, I think. They got every weight. I just think with Keegan, you got Levi, and, I mean, Hamidi's just really evolved, too. I think Oklahoma State's been his best friend. That was probably the best move we've seen. Does he have another year left of eligibility, or is this it?
I think this is it. I think this is it for him. Because I think he did 3 years at Wisconsin before moving to OSU. I'm pretty sure this is his last year.
Did he get a COVID year out of it? Like an extra fifth, like a fifth one?
Oh, yeah, maybe. Let me look here real quick.
Because maybe he did 4 at Wisconsin, or if he did 3, and then maybe gets an extra year next year.
He might have another year, yeah.
I think he only did 3 at Wisconsin.
He did 3 at Wisconsin, but he wouldn't be able to have 5 NCAA tournaments. The timing wouldn't work out.
Oh.
Yeah, he was in high school still.
Yeah, so he's this is his last year then. But yeah, he's a guy. He didn't have a great NCAA tournament last year. I don't remember if he ended up All-American, making All-American, but if he did, it was lower than expected. But this year he's been lights out. OSU, he's definitely one of the guys that's, I think, benefited most. Something I think is really interesting too, that quarterfinal 8 versus 9 seed, Lenny Pinto and Karchula, the winner of that more than likely getting O'Toole. That's going to be a crazy quarter, I think. All 3 of those guys are really tough. Definitely way different styles, but it'll be interesting to see Keegan match up with either Pinto or Karchula.
Has he wrestled Karchula before, or has he wrestled Carson yet?
I don't know. I don't know if he has.
I feel like a guy that isn't the kind of person that Keegan can kind of do his normal, like, where he's long, he can kind of like switch over, reach over the head, kind of maybe catch cradle, like wrestle while on top. I feel like it's going to be interesting to see his body type wrestle against O'Toole, where like maybe Carson hasn't really been like hammering a bunch of guys before, like throughout the season, but he's also one that you can't do that to either.
Right. Yeah, he's just solid. He's just like, he's got a crazy build and his style is very unique.
He's got that Abkhazia, that Russian build. His dad's from the same region as like Sargush.
Yeah.
Over in Russia.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, they have the same, that similar, like big back.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember Rustam Ampar. He was one of my training partners. He wrestled. He was a Urigan champ, but he was like number 2 in Russia, I think, for a little bit with Rashidov. But he's from that region of Abkhazia. It's like connected to Georgia. And the only person, I guess, that like all these Russians that you see from Dagestan or like Chechnya, or people living here, in the U.S., the only person that Carson Miran's knew, or like that was from the same area as Rustam. And that's like really rare because it's like only a couple 100,000 people from that area. Wow. So it's kind of rare. He's like, so he's built, like they all have the same like build physically. You know what I mean?
So they're all like kind of related somehow.
Yeah, probably a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's wild. That I mean, that's such a tough area. I feel like that Russia, the Georgian, Stevan, you were able to just train with Merab, right?
Yeah, I did. I was out in my lifting coach, my strength and conditioning coach. He trains a lot of athletes. He trains like Chiesa. He trains Brady Heastand. He trained Terrence McKinney for a little while. So he's like, and he wrestled. So like he's helped me tremendously. Kind of where having that same UFC PI, like the scientific end going into my wrestling really has helped a little bit with my strength training. And so I was out there actually just doing some stuff, and I ended up going in and working with Merab because Brady trained with him a lot. And he's like the most down-to-earth dude. He is, and what I really like about him too, it's like he really respects and understands wrestling and sees the value of wrestling. And obviously you can see it in his fighting. But yeah, it was awesome.
That's great. Yeah, Did you guys just wrestle, or did you kind of roll around, or what was the workout?
We just wrestled some positional stuff, a lot of like high crotch, double, single starts and stuff. But I'm definitely want to go down there with him again, and I'd like to maybe like help him out or do some stuff with his camp, because he really liked me a lot, and he's very genuine person. He likes, he seems like he's always wants to be pushed and wants to grow. He's got that workhorse mentality too. So I think obviously expanding and being against guys where now his weight class is getting deeper when it comes to wrestling. You have like Umar in there. I think he definitely wants to keep improving. So
yeah, it seems like his style, it could use a little bit of like technical detail and nuance.
He needs to polish up a little bit.
Yeah.
Because you watched his fight with Umar, and it was like, dude, just take him down and actually like get like 4, 5. You could probably take him down, and it's like if Umar sits the corner, gets behind you, or gets a takedown or two, it could be a totally different match.
Right.
So
yeah, no doubt. Yeah, that's I think that's really cool that he appreciates and respects the wrestling, and like you said, you see it in how he competes.
Well, you know how it is. Like, I mean, obviously you're doing amazing yourself in the UFC, but like probably training with guys. And now, like, if you weren't fighting, but when you were just wrestling, it's like some guys are like, oh, yeah, like they don't know what it is like to be an NCAA champion wrestler, or to be a world champion wrestler, or like to go and do these kind of things and, qualify for the Olympics or whatever it is. They don't understand like how high and how like what that means for them. So then but then they see it and they feel it and they say, oh, like, how can this help me out? It's like,
yeah, there's definitely a difference. It's really interesting in the MMA space, because I feel like the perception of good wrestling is like really skewed.
Yes.
They'll be like, this guy's like amazing wrestler, and if you actually understand and know wrestling, you'd be like, well, no, not really. Like, or oh, we have like this great wrestling technique of this detail, and it's like, dude, that's like what we learned when we were 7. So. It seems like, and another thing I feel like there's a lot of guys, like wrestling in MMA is definitely different than just straight wrestling, but I feel like you got to get the right information, like if I'm learning striking or learning jiu-jitsu, I want to learn at a world-class level and then apply that and figure out how to be creative and mix that into my MMA fighting, right? It's tough when you're getting like almost information that's not as high level, and then you're trying to, then like use it. Like I'd rather just get the best stuff.
100%. But I also think like being as high level of a wrestler that you are, you can't like. You can take a lot of things from whether it is like your striking and learning how to like close the gap to your takedowns, or your not getting caught in any submissions, or like doing things in that end, but kind of keeping true to your wrestling while learning those things and taking away those like kind of like the world class pieces of each thing, but staying true to yourself, I think will always go the furthest. Especially like wrestling is a little different, but at the same time like our body awareness and how we can move because of the sport of wrestling, it's like you can't teach that to someone who's 25 years old like you can like teach jiu-jitsu to someone who's 25. Like just it looks like someone walking versus someone who uses crutches, that you could tell if someone wrestled or not,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can just never make up the gap really if you started when you were young, whereas in the other disciplines you can.
You guys made me think of this one thing. I feel like, Bo, you were talking about learning things at a world-class level, right, from other disciplines. I feel like, and you could speak on this since you're currently doing it, but I feel like, let's say you're doing boxing, right? You're learning how to strike. You got to understand timing, the concept of timing and movement in space, and then also how do you find your entry points for when you want to throw a jab or put a combination together, right? And so I feel like if you try and learn something at a world-class level in one discipline, you can take those concepts, you can parallel them and apply them to the discipline you're already currently good at. So, for example, if I'm striking, right, and I'm learning how to move in space, I use a feint to create a reaction, right, and then I'm working off of that to determine when I want to come in and when I want to go back out, right? Like creating my opportunities off of that. It's like you can apply that same concept to world-class high-level wrestling. It's like moving in space. I fake, change levels, get my opponent to react, and I can decide what I want to do based off that information, right? It's like,
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. I think that for me, I just take like my wrestling style and what I learned, what I built my system in wrestling around, and then I just apply that to whatever else I'm doing. And like I'm doing something different, but it's the same application. So when I wrestle, all I'm thinking about in my head is I'm going to circle to my right. I'm going to control the ties with my right hand, and then I'm going to shoot with my left hand. That's like the start, right? And then obviously, you go down many, many different roads from there, but it's just like simplifying everything and keeping it positionally and technically sound. And then from there, once you master that and master the fundamentals of position, you can kind of do whatever you want. So it's the same thing with, whether I'm going to shoot a high crotch or whether I'm going to throw a kick or throw a left hand or try to get a submission. It's just like figuring out systematically figuring out what you want to do, like what's your system, and then you just kind of master the basics, master the fundamentals, and then you are able to be more and more creative from there. I think that's why that's why wrestling is so competitive and why people are so good. It's so hard to be a national champ and a world champ, Olympic champ, because guys start learning their systems and learning their foundation when they're 5, and then by the time they're 15, they've basically become a master at it. And then by the time you're 25, it's like you only are competitive if you're just a freak at everything. Like you can't, you can't just pick it up and start it. It's like, dude, like imagine if some guy started golfing for, a year or 2 or 3 years and then was like, yeah, I'm going to go beat Tiger Woods in golf or beat Jordan Spieth or, any of these guys. Like it's not happening. And in MMA, it's almost like that is what people expect. They expect like, oh, I can just like learn how to sprawl. Like, all right, like not really,
Yeah. They probably just think that because there's so many different things that can apply and like, okay, yeah, but like at the same, yeah, it's wild to me how that thought process even comes into play. But
and my thing is the other thing that I feel like I've been thinking about a lot that's been really interesting is that with wrestling, specifically American wrestling, like a lot of what MMA is what sport's the best, right? Is it wrestling, jiu-jitsu, boxing, karate? Like what's the best, right? Or what area is the best? And so when I look at American wrestling over the last, let's call it a decade and a half, none of our best wrestlers have gone into MMA. Like name 5 guys that have gone from NCAA wrestling or World Olympic wrestling into and tried to fight that you are really like, that guy's one of the best wrestlers. Nobody.
No, boy, you're the best college wrestler that's entered the space. And like that's what I was thinking, like, oh, like how would I, fare? And obviously when you look at it, you're just like the best freestyle guys have been Henry and DC.
Yeah,
like,
that's it.
And look where they've cemented a wrestler
like
in general. Look where
they're all-time greatest. And like let's talk about it realistically.
And
I think these guys both agree with me. Henry was an amazing freestyle wrestler, like unbelievable freestyle wrestler. Won the Olympics at whatever 18 or 19, and then, but he never wrestled collegiately. And then he started fighting pretty early, like so. It wasn't really like and look, he's one of the best of all time. DC was an Olympian, but I don't think he ever won the nationals. I don't think he ever was like an NCAA champ. Bro,
I think his best medal. I think he got bronze one year at the World Championships. But
so he's very high level, like one of the best guys in the world. But those are 2 guys, and they've cemented themselves as like top 10 all-time UFC fighters. Imagine if we had so there's 330 guys competing at this NCAA tournament, right? Imagine if 33 of these guys, just one each weight, started fighting. Like, dude, imagine if 10%. Imagine if 10% of the guys that were NCAA qualifiers started fighting after college, bro, there would be nobody in the rankings other than wrestlers. It would
be over. It would be over.
It would be done. And so that's where.
Look at all these like the Dagestan guys, like this new little Kavkaz region takeover type thing.
Mm-hmm.
All of those guys are like failed wrestlers, the ones who like didn't make it far enough to even like wrestle. Like they did it. Okay, I wrestled and I decided to go and do sambo because I after like U17s, like I wasn't good enough to wrestle anymore.
Yeah.
And it's for them though. The difference is like their freestyle guys, the way the Russian Federation takes care of them, it's not worth like Sidakov and like Sedulayev to decide to come into the UFC because they're like cemented, like their legacies in wrestling is so cemented. They're like, you know, it's like their fame and what they are in the sport like is forever there. So it's not worth them doing that. But look at like you're saying, like you could literally have college wrestlers go into it, and it wouldn't even be a close situation.
Yeah, like I just think if you know, if we had 20 guys a year, which is not very many, like not a small number every year, transition to MMA, in 5 years nobody would win other than college wrestlers. Like nobody would get a single win. But it's just like that's what people don't realize, and so people. I think MMA fans, from what I've seen, they're like, oh, American wrestling, no good, this or that. It's like you don't even know who's good. Like you're talking about like the guys that you're talking about and as American wrestlers wrestled like 3 years in high school. They're not even real wrestlers. It's like, you know, so you don't have anybody that's competing at a Division I level or competing at a world championship level that is right now transferring into MMA. So I mean, we'll see. There's a lot of opportunities with RTCs now and different stuff where guys don't feel like, you know, you really don't have to fight. Like I'm only fighting because I want to and I like it and it's really fun. But I would hope that there are a few more guys that maybe get motivated to do it. And because I don't know, it's nice to have other guys that come from that same background around you.
There's nothing like it, man. Like the fighting verse compared to the wrestling verse, it's like just meeting someone that like you see like wrestled or know a wrestler that or something. It's just like there's just something about it that like connects differently than other combat sports or kind of being in that like the MMA lifestyle, like that's their, you know, culture. It's a way different. Or jiu-jitsu culture. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's just like
there's this.
It's more ingrained in you. Like it's more of that's a big reason why I spend a good amount of my time still in state college with Penn State and NLWC training is just because I just love the guys. I love the team. I love being around everybody. Just good people, down to earth, you know, humble. That's like what I want to be around. And I mean, there's good people in MMA as well. But really, when I think about who I think of as my role models and who I think of as guys that I want to be like, it's all my wrestling teammates and coaches. Like I just love those guys. They're just the best.
Something else that was very interesting you brought up was the wrestlers transitioning into MMA, and one of the another example that we have is from another guy from our gym, Dave Evans, who wrestled at Penn State, like has never made the lineup and absolutely dominated his first two fights, and it wasn't even close. Yeah,
so we have a couple of guys, that are like David Evans is one. You guys wouldn't know him, but he backed up Bartlett. You know Evans, all right? Yeah, you've been out here enough.
Because he's
you guys, You guys probably like train together and whatnot. But he's taken 2 amateur fights. He lost like really close matches to Kasak and Bartlett for the wrestle off. But now he's like, I want to fight, and so he's already 2-0 amateur, and he's still in college. Like he's got a full semester left of school, so we'll see. Hopefully, more guys like that start to make a transition. But I want to jump to let's do 197 first, and then we'll finish with 84 because obviously 84 is a crazy situation. But let's talk 197. Mike Mock, what do you think about this bracket? You were 97 national champ, so. You know what this weight class is like. Any guys stand out to you?
I think even though Cardenas has beaten Buchanan, I think Buchanan's been consistent. I think what you see from him is consistently the same. You know what I mean? I don't think I've seen a huge drop-off performance-wise, match to match. I think the same Buchanan shows up pretty much every time. Whether he wins or loses, he's only lost. How many matches has he lost this year?
Just one.
So he's pretty consistent. And I thought I think Barr has looked great this year too. And so the fact that he beat Barr, I thought was impressive. And then I also think Cardenas has looked very tough. He won Vegas, and he was pretty controlled in all of his wins. And then, but you know who I would love to see have a really great tournament?
Double bird. Ferrari. You guys forgot Ferrari. Oh.
Yeah. So honestly, I was gonna say Michael Beard, but AJ Ferrari. AJ Ferrari, honestly, like he looked like the one thing I got to give him credit for is the dude will do the gritty stuff on top. Like when it comes to the mat, he'll do as many mat returns as he needs to. You know what I'm saying? And I think honestly that's like been a big difference maker for him against his ranked opponents. When I think about the year he won NCAAs, he wrestled the Pitt kid Bonacorsi, right, in the final.
You know, yeah.
He ended up winning the national title the next year, but he beat him, and I think it's because he spent when he got on top, Bonacorsi took honestly a good amount of time to get off bottom, and he spent a majority of the time on the mat. Like Ferrari did a good job riding him, and you think about guys who are super offensive and really good on their feet. If you keep them on the mat majority of the match, it's like a game of possession. It's like you don't get as much time on your feet, so which means you're gonna have a lot less opportunities. And I think
that's how he beat Miles when Miles bumped up to 97. It wasn't even a neutral match. It came down to how long Ferrari rode him out the whole match to keep it away from that neutral battle when Miles was a little undersized and he just kind of could be on top of him and for most of the match.
I wrestled Ferrari at Olympic trials. I beat him first round 21, and his hand fight, I didn't feel like he was super like strong. I felt stronger than him, and so like I think positionally was a lot more like fundamentally sound than he was and stuff like that, and controlled the inside pretty much the whole match. But the two things that I'll give him is very flexible. So it's like just different. It's just a different feel. And then I didn't wrestle him in folk style, so I don't know what he feels like on top. But I will say he's just very flexible, so he can give guys fits defensively, and then he just looks like he'll ride you. He'll do whatever he's got to do to just be tough on top. So I'll give him credit there. And then Michael Beard has only lost one match, and that was to Barr. And honestly, I mean, you know Michael Beard. You can talk on what you think about Mike Beard and stuff like that. But I mean, honestly, a great wrestling talent, has a great feel. Really nice single leg. I enjoy training with him. And I think with Mike, this is, I've only been here this going on like a year and a half now, so almost 2 years. And so I was with him for last year's NCAA tournament. But this year, he just seems more lax going into the tournament than he has in years past. And it's just kind of like, I've already All-American twice. Like, what am I going to aim for a third one? I might as well just go ahead and try and win the whole thing this time. You know what I mean? And so he's got this, like, relaxed, controlled demeanor that I feel like comes across as, like, he's actually looking forward to it, which I feel like is unique for him.
Yeah, that's good to hear. I feel like Beard, talent-wise, I've wrestled Beard a lot, and from his time at Penn State. And talent-wise, he's probably one of the best guys I've ever competed with in training and in practice. He's had really good results, but I think that what held him back is definitely being a little tense and a little tight in the big moments. And so to hear that makes me excited to watch him at this tournament, because I feel like, that kind of has been his biggest, negative kind of going into competition is he doesn't really compete as well as he should, and from what I've seen in practice. So that's definitely exciting. There are tons of exciting I'm looking at this weight right now, and there's so many exciting, cool storylines and matchup. You'll have Luke Serber, who's super dangerous, probably meeting he'll be hitting Bronigal in the round of 16, and then the quarters, Cardenas potentially. We have Stephen Little and Mike Beard matching up in the second round. Winner probably getting Josh Barr. And then something I think is really interesting, AJ Ferrari here at the 3 seed will be hitting Glazer in the second round, which they are the ones that's where the splits to the double bird originated, is from that match. So they're going to probably get a rematch there.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. That's so true. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. I wonder if he'll pull it out, if he gets the dub in the round of 16 there.
He has
Yeah,
to.
because they had a close match, didn't they?
Overtime. It was overtime. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
But see, what ended up happening in that match actually is So AJ beat him in overtime, and then did the splits to the double birds, but then they disqualified him. So it was actually Glazer won technically, but he didn't win. So.
Oh man.
And then in addition to that, we were talking about teammates, wrestling each other, but we have Luke Stout and Max Stout, who are brothers.
That's
that if they win their first round match, they're gonna wrestle. What would you do? I mean, that's so crazy.
Wait, first round?
No, second round. If they both win, they'll
second.
wrestle. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
but
insane.
they're both probably gonna win. They're both seated higher. Oh man. Yeah, what would you do?
You can't make it easier and be like, oh, we're on the separate sides of the bracket. We just got to do what we got to do, and if we got to wrestle, let's do it. But second round, that changes both brothers' trajectory of the tournament. One, you get to this quarters, and it's a much easier way to All-American. The other is
right.
You just got to go through the ringer back, wrestle back
through the ringer. Yeah, it's insane. I feel like I would just. I guess it's wrestling, right? I don't know. I would have a hard time with that. I feel like if I had to wrestle with my brother, I would almost not want to do it, right?
Yeah. I don't have a brother, so I don't know. That's a weird thing. You don't have a brother either, do you, Bo?
I don't know.
I would rather not do it. I do. And he's a redshirt sophomore at NC State wrestling for them at 197.
Wow.
But, so you could sub in right now and wrestle him.
But I would rather not do it. But I also am the type of dude that I'd probably be texting dude, I'm about to smack you. I'm about to break off you route 2, dog. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
play the banter.
You get super mean out there. You're just cross facing him and shoving his head in the mat.
Yeah. So I would definitely rather not do it, but I would definitely have some fun with it, talk a little trash.
Yeah. Mock, talk a little bit about your NCAA experience. That was a crazy bracket the year that you won. A lot of upsets, and you ended up wrestling Jared Hott in the finals. But talk about that experience.
Yeah. So, it was my second NCAA tournament. I had never All-Americaned before. I was round of 12, lost to Drew Foss the year before. And then this was my first year up at 97, so I went up a weight class. And honestly, I was the 4 seed. And I only had 3 losses on the year, 1 to Preston Weigel off a riding time point against Oklahoma State, and then I lost to Jared Hott twice during the regular season. And those matches were so winnable. I mean, no one scored a true takedown. One was a stall call point because the new stall call had just been implemented, and he shot me out on the edge first 30 seconds of our first match, and then they hit me with a warning because it was new. And then I took too long to mat return him in the second, so he beat me 2-1. And then ACC conference final, we went into ultimate ride out, and I was about to win. I was erasing his riding time. There was 3 seconds left. We're on the edge. I'm in a crab ride almost, on the edge in a tight waist. And so then I pull him into my hips, and I go half from claw, and I try and pull him out of bounds. Because I figure we go out of bounds, we start back in the middle, I'll get that 3 seconds, I'll have the riding time, even if he escapes. He steps over and reverses me on the edge. I escape with 10 seconds left and end up losing off of a reversal. And so, honestly, the tournament was a great experience. I was really confident going to the tournament. I felt good. I felt well prepared. And then when I was going to the finals match, I felt it's time I get this one back. And the fact that we had no takedowns in the first 2 meetings, I was my mindset was man, I don't care if I get taken down or if I'm the one that scores the takedown. I just don't want to have a match where 0 takedowns happen. So I was just I really was in this mindset. I was just I'm about to just let it rip. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that's what helped me because I felt like I was relaxed enough to just kind of have that mentality. It's like, oh yeah, we're about to let loose this whole match. It's the last one of my college career, like we're full send. And so that helped me a ton too. But Colin Moore ended up getting the 1 seed, and I had beaten him during the regular season in the duel against Ohio State. And then Kassar had beaten him that year, which was actually crazy too. So I didn't know if I was going to have Shakur or Ant, and I ended up wrestling Shakur in the quarters.
Right.
And but honestly, it was
bro.
a good tournament.
He had you, bro.
So,
you freaking had to pull it out at the end.
I know. Honestly, I think he was honestly a lot stronger than I thought he was going to be because he looked
so
light.
strong, bro. He's so strong,
dude, ridiculous. And I remember he kept shooting, and I stuffed one of his shots, I think in the second period, and I remember hearing him grunt because he kept trying to finish. And I had his head trapped underneath my hips, and I just did a good job keeping my hips square and making him work for like however long he was trying to finish. And it just took so much juice out of him. I heard him like grunt, and then when I heard that, I was like, "Oh, okay, he's tired," you know.
Wow.
So I was able to kind of pull that third period. I just kind of picked up my pace. I hit like a sprint with like a minute left, and he was getting really like heavy-footed. Like it was like very, very obvious. And so I just kind of pulled the trigger, got in on a shot. He tried to scramble, and I think he was just really tired.
Yeah, no, that was a crazy tournament too, because then at the number 1 seed, you had Colin Moore, who got pinned in the quarters by Cannell, and then you had Cannell in the semis.
Yep, and then I pinned him in the semis.
And then you pinned him, right? In the
I remember
first
that.
period?
Yeah, second period. He
Second period.
blast doubled me in the first like 20 seconds. Though he was strong. He was the strongest dude I wrestled all season.
Was that the Kent State dude?
Yeah.
Kent State. He was a pigtail match.
Yeah.
He was a pigtail match, which is crazy. Like, imagine looking at these brackets right now, and none of us have acknowledged any of the guys in the pigtails in any of these brackets. But imagine one of these guys in the pigtails just going
like Wolfgang from Army.
Yeah. Wolfgang.
But it's crazy, man. Yeah, this tournament's nuts. And, I mean, I would love to see something like that happen just because I feel like it would be exciting for fans. But, that's just fun. Wild. And then I had you before me, and, you know, I had to make sure I warmed up and was ready to go by the time your match went. Because I was like, man, I don't know what's going to freaking happen, blah, blah. Like, I need to make sure. And then this dude goes out and gets the pin. And I'm like, good thing I warmed up early. Let's go.
Wow.
You know, so I was ready to go by the time you walked out there. But, dude, that NCAA class was pretty stacked.
Bro, that was the craziest tournament ever. 2018. Stevan, were you at Michigan or Northwestern in that year?
I was at Michigan. All my college years were at Michigan. I was only that first red shirt year, and I just redshirted. Yeah, and then I left. Yeah, and then everything kind of fell apart anyways with what happened anyways.
Yeah.
So
right, gotcha. But yeah, that was a crazy year.
That was 2018.
2018. Yeah, I just remember being so focused on the team race. I wasn't even worried about my matches. I was just like, yo, we got to beat Ohio State. Like, freaking these guys are coming for us. And their team was so stacked, bro. So they had, listen to this team from top to bottom. Nate Tomasello. Who do they have at 30? Luke Pletcher. Joey McKenna. Hayes.
Oh, God.
Micah Jordan. At 65, they had the kid from Pittsburgh, Campbell, Tayshawn Campbell, who was All-American, I think. Bo Jordan, Miles, Colin Moore, and then Kyle Snyder, bro. That's like the craziest. That's such a crazy team. And I remember just being like,
that's actually a crazy roster. That's a crazy starting lineup.
Yeah, bro. So they had national champions. They had Tomasello, Miles. They had Kyle. And then they had, we'll count Colin because he got screwed with the COVID year. But
he did. Yeah.
Him. And then finalists, they had McKenna. They had Bo Jordan. I mean, they had Micah Jordan, who was always up there. Like, dude, that team was stacked.
Pletcher ended up being the same situation that year.
Pletcher
He won Big Tens, and he got the year he moved up to 41.
Yeah, he got screwed as well.
That was a crazy tournament for us too, because at your weight we had Tariq Wilson just on.
Oh my God!
Yeah. I remember watching. I had just beat Pletcher and waiting for the finals of him and Gross, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is the craziest match I've ever seen." Probably still one of the craziest NCAA matches.
That was
wasn't it like 20? It was like 15 to something.
He pinned him.
It was like overtime. Yeah,
in overtime. Yeah,
Seth
he
got on his single leg. Gross reached underneath far side tricep, pulled across, like hip tipped him and stepped over.
Bro,
off Tariq's
that was
leg.
crazy. Yeah, that match was insane. Honestly, like I've watched that match back after, but I was so focused on other stuff that I didn't even know that was going on. I was like, how's Keyshawn Hayes doing on the backside? Like, oh man, that was a blur. But you know, speaking of exciting, you know, fun stuff. Let's get to 84. I think this is such a freaking good weight. These guys are at this weight are unbelievably good. We have Plot at the 4 seed, McAnally, freshman phenom at 3, Parker Keckheisen, returning national champ, one of the best wrestlers in the NCAA right now. And then number 1 seed, going for his 5th national title, we got Carter Storaci, 5th national title. What do you guys think about that specifically? Like, just not the whole bracket or the whole tournament, but just Carter going for 5. Like, how crazy is that?
Crazy.
Insane.
I think it's sick.
I think it's insane too, because I don't think out of everybody that's wrestled at Penn State the last including all these guys, Carter wasn't really like the first person that even over like Aaron Brooks, for example, which I get it, he ended up winning 4 as well. But like, I don't think anybody would even thought like after he won his freshman year that he was going to be a 4-timer, let alone now going to break the record for 5.
Yeah, man,
right?
It's crazy.
Like I don't think anybody thought that.
He took a couple losses. You know, he had lost to Mikey Kemmerer, lost to the Indiana kid.
Jackson, DJ Washington.
DJ Washington. And so, I mean, he just figured out a way, I think, that year to, like, gut it out. And the thing about Carter, I mean, a lot of people know this because he's very outspoken, but the competitiveness is just, like, I've never really seen anybody. He takes it to a new level. Let's just put it that way. Like, I'm very competitive. You know, you mentioned any guy at this level, any guy in the Penn State room, like, we're all really competitive, you know. Carter takes it to, like, a crazy place. And he means all the stuff he says. So it's just like I think he's won I don't even know how many matches in a row, but you can't bet against him. Especially, you know, last year if people would have known like what he actually did to his knee, how bad he was hurt, bro, you would have never believed that he was even walking. Like, you'd be like, no, that dude's like in a wheelchair. Like, there's no way. If you just saw his MRI, and he goes out, beats multiple national champions, and wins the weight. It's just like he's just got the craziest competitive drive that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So I got a personal story.
Let's hear it.
Carter and I. This is at Olympic Training Center, and this was maybe like, let me see how long ago it was. I actually just sent him this picture the other day because it popped up on my memories. But like, basically, this guy was asking Carr. This was 2022 in August at one of our national team camps. And it's like 10:30 at night, 11 o'clock at night. I'm going to the 7-Eleven across the street to go get like a snack or something. I see Carter walking with his gear. I'm like, he's like, where you? I'm about to go get like a Gatorade or something. He's like, what about you? He's like, I'm going to go do technique with Coach Carr. He's like, let's go, bro. I'm like, because you know how he is. I'm like, all right, say less. I'll go, because I don't know. I'm like that too. Like, in terms of like, you know, I like to be in the room. I'm always curious about stuff like that, wanting to I haven't really worked with Carr's dad at all, Nate Carr, before. So I'm like, all right, yeah, let's go. Dude, so me and Carter start going. And it's technical for like the first 30 minutes. And Carr showing some stuff, right? And then it starts ramping up, okay? And he's lighter than me, mind you. So, and it's because this was 2 years ago. He wasn't at 184. And so it starts ramping up, and we basically start going live.
Yeah.
And so in my head, I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to go live until he decides he wants to be done, because it's definitely not going to be me. Right? And so Noah Carter, and I hadn't really known him very well. I was just getting familiar with him at the time. He's thinking the exact same way. And in my head, he's like, man, I'm crazy. I'm telling you. In my head, I'm like, listen, bud, so am I, man. You picked the wrong one. And so we end up wrestling, and neither of us end up stopping. It has to go until Nate Carr at like 2 o'clock in the morning decides to want us to stop it for us. And by this point, we're both like, we're just going to keep going. But we were so tired, and it was like Carr took a shower. He was sitting on the bleacher on the side. Just looked like he was entertained. Like, he might as well just had like a bag of popcorn or something, just like enjoyed himself. And me and Carter were laughing about it afterwards. We were both thinking the same thing, like, yo, is this guy going to say anything, or is he just going to let us be here all night? And funny enough, we both got hurt the next practice, the next day.
That checks out.
I wonder why.
Dumb.
Yeah, right.
So dumb.
No, that's
Never
like
did that again.
Carter's, he's infamous for that. He'll always be, doing the 10 p.m., 11 p.m. midnight workouts and always doing extra grinding. And I feel like he's got that competitiveness in him, but I think also because he talks, he talks his talk, it's like he has to, He
has to back it up.
Right.
I guess it's being like someone, seeing Carter, I guess. I wish that he was more of like the way that he does what he says is like, if you, like, for example, if you say something, Bo, like the way you wrestle is very exciting and very like you're going to go out there, and he's just a very defensive and like control kind of wrestler. So it's like sometimes I wish that he would like do that, especially for like some stuff he says. But I think his positioning and how well he holds the center of the mat is world class, and how he can press people. Like, once he figures this out and gets to the senior level in the next year or two, like, after this NCAAs, for example, like, maybe he wasn't there yet with especially everyone in Paris, but like after this year, he's going to be a threat, especially how well he can hold position. He's hard to get to his legs. He can, constantly making the guy wrestle toward the edge and out of bounds and try to circle in. It's very difficult for people to handle that pressure.
Yeah,
it's insane.
He's got a great style. I think his style's way better suited for freestyle.
It is.
Because he's so fundamentally sound, and he does such a good job of holding the center.
It's insane.
I think that if he can work on, some of the chest wrap, front headlock, parterre stuff, that like, dude, anybody in the world is going to have a really, really hard time beating him, because his position's so good, his baseline defense is so good that the only positions I really worry about him is like getting tricked, like in a chest wrap or getting turned or something like that, maybe. But like the freestyle potential for him is insane just with his style. And he's not a guy that's going to go out and do something flashy and pin a guy in the first period. But I think his MO has always just been win. I have a really cool story about Carter. So I wasn't there for this, but Coach Casey told me that over it was the year, his first NCAA tournament was over COVID, and he's wrestling Mikey Kimmer in the finals. And Mikey Kimmer had beat him, I think, twice that year. He beat him pretty bad at the Big Tens by a few takedowns. And Coach Carter's warming up, and, he's got a couple matches to go. And Coach Casey goes up to him and is like, hey, man, how we feeling? He's like, feeling good. And he goes, all right, what's the game plan? Like, what are we doing here? And Carter just goes, win.
Yeah.
He just says win, and Coach Casey's like, all right, like, let's do it. So it's like, I think that's just his MO. Like, he's like, I don't really care if it looks ugly. I don't care.
Yeah.
If it's done. I'm just gonna go win. And for him, like, he makes it happen, makes it work. He had a perfect example is the tight match with Max McAnally. Gets taken down, with a really nice low single in the first period, and he just figures out how to come back, figures out how to freaking win against the best guys, in the country. So all these matches are going to be super entertaining, I think, because the what it really means, right? Like, this is never going to happen again in wrestling. There's no situation where anybody's ever even going to have the opportunity to do this. It's not like, oh, he can do this and somebody can replicate it in the future. Like, this is it, which is just like, it's in my mind like must-see TV every second.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you guys think about some of these other guys? I mean, obviously we have a lot of really tough guys at the weight. I mentioned Plot McAnally and Kekheisen. We also have Chris Foca at the number 60.
Foca's great.
Yeah, he's really tough. We have Bennett Berge, who's beat a lot of good guys.
What's the Minnesota kid that kept a good match? What's his name?
McAnally, I think.
McAnally, yeah. I think he has a lot of ups. I mean, his upsides is really great. I just question that, like, he kept a good match. He wrestled well against Carter. I don't know if there's anybody that's going to be able to, like, take it out of Carter's control of the match, even if, like, okay, one takedown happens or something like that. I don't know, like, if it's going to be enough to keep Carter out of the match completely. Like, I know I was kind of thinking this earlier when you guys were talking about, like, Gable, for example, and, like, Kassar was talking about, like, getting ready for, like, having someone actually try to game plan him. It's like, well, you can kind of game plan Gable's offense a little bit, but it's like, well, you can stop him from shooting, but how are you going to actually get your scores? And I don't know how guys are actually going to score on Starachi. You know what I mean? Like, that's like, it's like there's a little bit of a layer. It's like, do I think anyone here has that, like, level of offense that can kind of break through that? I don't know. Like, that's what like, there'd have to be someone that's like, hey, this guy's can hold position well and can find attacks to actually, like, get that takedown, get at the end of a period and get up, you know what I mean, be up 3-0 or something like that. Like, but that's the problem. There's nobody that's.
The other thing that I think that we don't have at 184 right now. So when I look at Plot, McAnally, and Kekheisen, they're all, straight up and down, no frills. They're going to get out, hand fight, sprawl, they have single leg high C, basic stuff. They're probably going to get out on bottom. Like, I don't really see anybody here with an X factor where it's like, yo, like, this dude's got crazy.
You took the words out of my mouth.
Yeah, this guy's got a crazy, scramble, or this guy can, got a really, like, a crazy explosive shot. I mean, we have Parker Kekheisen at 24-0. He's a undefeated returning national champion, incredible talent, but he's gonna have to, like, he would just have to sneak one out on Carter. That's, like, the only way to beat him, right? Like, make it tied into the third and then sneak one out in the third or in overtime. Like, that's really there's one path to victory for the second best guy in the weight, and I think that everybody else is kind of like maybe not as good of versions of that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree with that. I know we've been talking about, obviously, Carter, Kekheisen, and some of the names you already mentioned before, but like TJ McDonald on a 6 or 8 match losing streak, lost to every single guy in his conference, and then wins the conference going into the postseason.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he's
Crazy.
a redshirt freshman.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that. And then, hey, congrats, bud. You're in the pigtail, and then you win, you get Starachi.
That's terrible.
Good work at conference. That was epic. Now here's the number 1 pound for pound guy in college. Like,
You know what else I like about Max Hale's not bad either. He beat Pat Downey, which I don't know if people respect that or not. Whatever you guys want to think about that. But
that's a good win.
U.S. Open champ, and he wrestled tough at World Team Trials. Not bad. And Dylan Fishback also wasn't bad. I think he was around a 12 guy last year.
Yeah, that's an interesting first round matchup.
Yeah, he's got some wins over some All-Americans, I believe, in his career. And it'll be his second tournament, and he's a redshirt freshman as well, so he's young. Name we could be seeing more in the next coming years. Silas Allred coming down from 197. So he's not bad. I think there's a lot of good wrestlers in this bracket. The other thing I will say, the reason why I personally think Carter's Carter and why he's going to be hard to beat is like, I really like the way he thinks, like with that competitive mentality aspect of things. And this is me trying to be unbiased. If it was anybody who thought like this, I'd be like, I love that. That's exactly how you need to think. You know what I mean? But it's like he talks about, like, I remember one time he was in the Lehigh Valley in December, and he came in and we practiced in like the morning, and we were in the car walking back to the cars, and we were talking about, you know, Penn State, just training, just all types of stuff. And but he was talking about, like, he remembers, like, someone had said something one year about, like, oh, his game plan is he's going to try and snap you down like X amount of times. Like, he averages a lot of snaps or something like that. And I'm totally butchering this, but, like, long story short, it's like, okay, well, you can game plan and you can prepare for how many times I might snap you down in a match. But his perspective is, it's not, oh, this is my game plan, I'm going to snap you down X amount of times. It's, I'm literally going to snap you as many times as it needs to happen. If you stop me from snapping you, I tried 99 times, I'm going to try 100. I'm just going to do more than you, and I'm going to do whatever it takes. You know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, it's that competitive, like, relentless type of mentality that I feel like really has put him in a position to do what he could potentially do, like, next weekend, and which is win 5. You know what I mean? I feel like you don't get there without thinking that way. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, he's just going to do what it takes, you know, whatever it takes. It's not like, all right, this is what I got. We'll see if it works out. It's like, I'm just going to do what I need to do to make it happen. And that's it's a crazy mentality.
And I think, too, like, just back to, like, his mentality along with his style, he's not another guy like that. I mean, he's a vet, and he knows how to win, and I don't think his style is not like something where he's going to go out and do something dumb. Like, he's going to be – you know what you're going to get with Carter every single time. So, like, that's hard to bet against. Like, when you that's – how this guy wins, and it's like, all right, no one can sniff a leg. You know, he controls the middle of the match. He knows how to score takedowns at you know, at the right times of the match. It's like, okay, I really don't know, like, and no one else is bringing anything that's, you know, no one's more than one dimensional out there wrestling him, you know, so it's like, you know, they don't have that second, third layer of scores, right, reattack scrambles that can kind of, you know, it's hard for me to not choose Carter.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what Max would like to see? They're on opposite sides of the bracket, but I would love to watch Max McNeely from Minnesota and Dustin Plout wrestle.
Yeah, they kind of almost look like they could be twin brothers.
Yeah.
Like, I'm really curious about that match. And I feel like that would be fireworks also. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about somebody that's not in a tournament but has made big waves at this weight, and that's Angelo Ferrari. He, you know, went out and beat Plot in the duel, which is crazy. Like, a red shirt guy's not competing and was able to beat the number 4 guy in the country. So that'll be interesting, you know, looking forward to next year's and, you know, future years having him wrestle in this tournament.
Yeah, he's honestly.
And he wrestled Carter. He gave Carter, you know, a super close match as well.
Yeah, and he beat Plot, I believe, right, in the duel, or in the Oklahoma Iowa duel, which is, I mean, great win for him. And returning NCAA finalist, a guy who, if he was on the other side of the bracket, you know, maybe could potentially make the finals again. But I think. What kind of career do you guys think he's going to have?
I think I don't know what kind of career he's going to have, but from what
hard to predict for college wrestling.
Yeah, but from the glimpse that I saw him wrestle in against these really big matches, like, now that's the guy that I would say that's the kind of guy that would to beat Storace if we were in. Like, right now, there's no one I see that's like, oh, they've got that little X factor. They got that little, like, you know, that asterisk mark that's like, damn, like, that's That's nice. No, I think Angelo's got that. I mean, he's got a couple good setups and shots. He's dynamic with how he changes levels for a bigger guy. He can hold position really well, and he can scramble on defense. He can whizzer. He can keep the scrambles going. He's not like a guy who's just giving up a quick takedown and whatever. He's athletic, and I like how he moves, and I like how his setups. I actually was talking with my dad the other day. I've been getting back on the mat and working out again, and we were kind of actually talking about how Ferrari hit that shot like onto the other side against Plot. Yeah, I mean, he has a nice little level change sweep single underneath like that, and it's a good setup. Or how he does it, like I think it's an over tie position, and he like kind of almost drops underneath a post. It's really nice.
Yeah. No, he's the real deal, man. He actually, I've known the Ferraris since they were little kids, and we went to the same high school. So I've known Angelo since he was just a little, 5-6 years old, and he's always had that. Definitely, it's cool to watch him on the college scene, and he does have that X factor, that explosiveness, fast twitch, right? Ability to get on the legs, ability to get on shots. And he was on Carter's legs, quite a bit. He was on Plot's legs a lot. And he's also shown the ability when you get on his legs, as you mentioned, to just have crazy scrambles, extend positions, and figure out just ways to not get scored on. So, a guy like that, I think moving forward in the future is going to be very, very hard to deal with. And I'm excited to see what he can do. Moving forward. But I think, we went through everything, and let me see if I can. Yeah, we went through the whole bracket. Am I off screen share now?
Yeah, I've been doing it, Bo.
Oh, you should have told me, bro. I was looking at a bracket.
You put Bo Nickal as the champ at this way. You filled it in.
You fill it in. Nice. Thank you. Appreciate it. But yeah, man. Well, I appreciate you guys coming on to chat and talk wrestling. This was really fun. And are y'all both? Are you gonna make it out to the tournament?
I might. I'm not 100% sure yet. I think if I do, it would probably be coming out Friday night and then staying through the weekend. I don't think I'm going to be there the full time, though.
It's in your backyard, right, Bob?
Yeah, it's like an hour drive, so I'm like, I got to go. So I'll be there.
Nice.
Are you going, Bo?
Yeah, I'll be out there Friday to Sunday, so I'm excited. It's going to be fun. NCAA tournament energy is always crazy. I think as far as wrestling goes, energy-wise, it's the best. It's the best energy there is, so I'm looking forward to it. There's a lot of good storylines this year. I wish there was somebody that had a super team that could compete with Penn State to make the team race a little close. It seems like that's kind of already I don't even think we really need to talk about it.
No.
But I think moving forward,
we're good on that. We'll skip over that.
Yeah.
I think moving forward, there's a couple teams that are, getting some good recruits and getting some good guys. So hopefully it could be more competitive in the future.
All right, question for you.
What's up, brother?
Even though we're ending. Thoughts on the OSU coaching change and you can be brief, right? But I really am curious as to how do you think that program is going to progress? Because I feel like there's been a lot of opinions, but I feel like for the most part, I mean, they haven't had a bad year. They've had a ton of transfers come in. Obviously, really, really good wrestlers who are already really, really good. So it's not like, you can help develop and refine some things, and that can make a big difference. But where do you feel how long do you think it'll take for a program to catch up to speed? Not even necessarily, it doesn't necessarily have to be Oklahoma State, but catch up to speed with Penn State's competitiveness and dominance, because you guys have won 10 out of the past 12 or 9 out of the past 11?
I think 11 out of the past 13.
Good Lord, bro.
Yeah,
it
is crazy. Yeah. So I think that, so I'll say this first. I think that David going to Oklahoma State is really exciting for the sport. It's a good thing for the sport. The sport needs variety. We need competitiveness, and we need people to try to build other programs up to, just push the sport forward overall. All right. And, our coaches they're a ways ahead just because they put the work in and they just know how to run the program, and they know how to get guys ready, and they're not at any point, hanging their hat on what they've done. It's always continuing to improve and develop and get better at coaching, get better at being a leader. And that's what I see from them every day. Like, the work that they put in now is probably even more than what they were putting in a decade ago. So as far as catching up, I don't know. Like, I can't say that, there's a timeline where, because they're still improving every day as coaches and as people. So but I think that back to Oklahoma State and the environment, I think that if you look at their situation, they have probably like the most or the second most money as far as the NIL and financial aspect goes, right? Like, they got massive funding. They've got a lot of support. They've got a great community that loves OSU wrestling, right? They're just, the biggest traditional powerhouse in the sport, most national championships in the sport. And so, they basically have every single piece that you need to be a successful program. And what it's going to come down to is whether or not David can develop and get his guys ready. Like, that's really all it is. So I think all the pressure is on him. And because he has every single tool that you need to be successful, he has his name, he's had massive accomplishments in the sport. And now moving into coaching, it's just like, all right, we're going to figure out if he's a great coach. If he is a great coach, I think they're going to have a lot of success. If he's not, then I think that's really what it comes down to. It's all the pressure's on him. So that's an interesting, but in my opinion, fun position to be in, because when you have every single thing, access to every single thing you need to be successful, there's no excuses. What the results will speak for themselves. And we'll see. They've had a good year so far, and I think that it takes time to build a program up, especially when you're coming into somewhere new. So we'll see what he can do, but I'm excited and looking forward to it. And I know, as a Penn State guy, the guy who's still in the room, it fires me up because it gets the competitive juices flowing. Like, I want to go into NLWC practice and wrestle with these guys, wrestle with Josh Barr, wrestle with Carter, wrestle with Zach Ryder, wrestle with Mitchell, with Levi. And I'm like, yo, let's get ready because these guys are coming. So let's not just like let them close the gap. Let's extend the gap. And that's my mindset towards the whole thing, because I bleed Penn State through and through. So if somebody wants to come at the King, like, come for it. Like, let's see how it goes. And I'm just doing my best to help these guys get prepared when I can.
Yeah.
All right. Long-winded.
Nah, but great answer, honestly. Great answer. And honestly, like, I like that perspective too about the pressure is kind of all of them. You have every single resource at your disposal, right? Like, I mean, there's
RTC,
no reason
he's got Zahid, he's got Roman, he's got Joey McKenna's going in, he's got good assistants in Gilman and Jimmy. So it's like, all right, brother, let's see if you can make it. Yeah, at the end of the day, I think that everything trickles down. When you have a good head coach, it affects the entire program. And the trickle down at Penn State has started with Kale, right? The best NCAA wrestler ever, in my opinion, one of the best wrestlers of all time in the world. And he's a guy that he does everything right, and it trickles down from him to the rest of the staff, to the athletes, to anybody involved in the program at any capacity. So now that I think that the same thing's going to happen at OSU, and we'll figure out if David, knows how to be a good leader and how to be a good coach. So it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah,
I think so too.
How do you think team race is going to finish, 1 through 4?
I think I like.
I'm done after that.
Yeah, good. I like. Obviously, we got Penn State at 1. I really like Nebraska. I like where they're at. I think that they're, super stacked, and they've been a sneaky good team this whole year. Their Big Ten tournament was great. I think that they're going to be right in there, 2-3. I would say that if I had to predict, I would pick them at number 2. At number 3, I think Oklahoma State. They've got a lot of heavy hitters, They've got Hamity, they've got Hendrickson, they've got Plott, they've got some good lighter weights. So I think that I like them right in that like 3 through 5 range, but probably 3. 4 is tough. I mean, Iowa would have to have an amazing tournament, in my opinion, to finish 4th. I don't see them finishing 4th. I think that they have potential. But yeah, I don't know. I honestly, outside the top three, I think it's fourth is up for grabs, and even somebody could slide in at third as well and end up with a trophy that, if their team has a good tournament. But I like, as far as the top three goes, I would pick Penn State, Nebraska, Oklahoma State. And then after that, it's a little bit of a toss up. What about you guys? What do you think?
I think Penn State 1. I think Nebraska 2. I think, and then I was gonna say Oklahoma State like 4th, 3rd, 4th, something like that. And
Yeah.
I don't know who's in between. I really like what Nebraska's doing this year as in development, because I really hope Michigan, we can take something out of their book here in the next couple years when we know the whole 5th, 6th year COVID stuff moves, and now we focus on these guys, because I really didn't know anybody on that Nebraska team till maybe last year, this year, except besides Ridge Lovett. The rest of them, I had no idea who Van D was, who Brock Hardy was, who what's that kid at 125? What's Smith?
Yeah, Caleb Smith.
I didn't know any of those kids. I don't think any of us did. So they came in hot and pretty much. They're doing an awesome job over there at Nebraska. So I'd that's what I think Michigan, we need to follow suit in that here in the next coming years, when we start really, these recruits come in and, that whole COVID stuff starts wearing off. I don't know. I think the Illinois is having a really good tournament. I don't know if they're a top 5 team right now, but in the NCAAs, but geez, I really like what they're putting together. I don't know how the outside of the, outside of the Big Ten right now is, if there's anybody.
Another team that, I don't think they're necessarily in that top 3-4 range, but UNI is absolutely killing it. That's such an awesome thing to see them do well. Yeah, they're doing really great. They had a legit chance to beat Oklahoma State in the duel this year, and they got a lot of sneaky good guys that maybe don't get the recognition, but Colin Riabuto is very tough. Their 97 is very tough. They could easily have, I think, 4 or 5 AAs, very easily.
Yeah,
I agree.
Could be enough to get a 4th place team finish too.
Good, yeah, for sure. I think there's going to be a lot of teams from 4 through 10 that are going to be it's going to be really tight.
Yeah. Agreed.
Cool. Well, thank you guys. We really appreciate your time. This was super fun, and I'll see you out there, Mock. Stevan, I'm hoping you make it out there, and we'll connect.
Definitely.
But I appreciate y'all, and best wishes to you guys. Always following you guys. You guys, looking forward to what you do next. So
same here, man. Best of luck with you too.
Appreciate it.